Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to Sandown for instalment part number 2 of the ASR Enduro Cup Sandown 300, the opening round of the Endurance Cup and the Endurance discipline for supercars. We normally refer to the Endurance discipline in ASR as GT3s, but for this year, we've got a second one. It's all about supercars. So qualifying night over and done with last night. And it was a very, very entertaining night, I think we can put it down to. The other two gentlemen next door to me will probably attest to that as well. Very trying night, not only for us, but for the ASR admin crew as well. But let's put all that behind us and let's have a fantastic day, because there's 97 laps ahead and all sorts of strategy permutations that will unfold over the course of the next 2.5 hours or so. My name is Steve DeVries, and joining me is Michael the Floodman Zalavari and Kiwi Chris Riddell. Gentlemen, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Steve. I did it again, far out. Good afternoon, Steve. Good afternoon, Chris. Good afternoon, everyone. It's great to have you all along for the Sandown 300 this afternoon. It's weird saying this afternoon. I don't quite know how to feel about it. It's normally our broadcaster in the evening, but we are here for a great day of supercars action, 300 kilometers. And if we get anywhere near the amount of action we saw last night in the qualifying get-up, we will be in for a cracking day's racing. Kiwi.
Yes, good morning, afternoon. Same problem. Yes, it's going to be a cracking day of racing. Sandown 300. There's no better form of racing in my mind than endurance racing, supercars. And we're going to have a good one today, I think, chaps.
I think we are. Did you two actually get some sleep last night? Because you both butchered the opening commentary remarks here. I don't think any of us got any sleep last night after what we went through.
Not at all. Just too much adrenaline, too much hype, and it's just so much. It's just motor racing, man. Sport. It's just something else.
We just need to prove we're doing it live.
That's it.
Yeah, exactly.
Lack of real-world supercars activity, I think, is causing a few dramas for a lot of people at the moment. And this is the pixel form of motorsport, as a lot of the guys are calling it, is probably the best remedy for, I guess, motorsport withdrawal symptoms at the moment, we can call it. It's the only thing that people can really do. I know that there's a lot of guys out there that try and spare their time as much as they can and jump on the sim rig, and they're going to have their work cut out for them today. There's 20 cars taking the start today. We have got some mail. There is one of the cars that competed last night is not taking the start tonight. So 20 runners out of the 22 who have registered for this one. But nonetheless, there is a very, very entertaining 300-kilometre race in store, and we'll run through a bunch of all those as well as the night goes on. I'm actually just seeing Brian Walsh is trying to join the Teams meeting with all the drivers, and no, that's not going to happen. So.
Walshy.
So that's the way that that's going to happen. He should actually be logging on and watching the live stream. So we won't be letting him join. It's only for the drivers only. Let's put it that way, chaps. There's a fair bit of interest and intrigue. It's one of the things that we did last year with the Bathurst 500. We had the teams meeting going and got the drivers in, and there's a few of them that have decided they want to have a little bit of a go, and we actually might bring them up in just a tick. Actually, we might do that right about now, actually. If we can queue it up and bring it up on screen. There we go. The number of drivers that are getting in there, they're all getting themselves sorted. Then you can see there, this is one of the things we have to do, is we have to go along and say, you know what, yes, you are a driver. You're allowed to join the session. You can see John McDonald's keyboard warrior there at the moment. We can't really see his head there, but all the other guys that are along there, you can see Kurt Stenberg, Ben Hall, Ben Rhodes, Steve Burko. There's Mitch McGovern was the first one in there. Luke Rosella, top centre of screen. So a number of those guys are enjoying themselves today. So great to have them on board. Great to see them having a little bit of fun along the way. And yes, F for Walshy, who can't join the team's meeting. There we go.
Yeah, this was good fun that we did last year at the Bathurst 500, and to see everyone back up again. It's nice to actually put some faces to the names that we see on the screen all the time.
Yeah, and I know a few of them actually have got webcams, and every now and again there's a little meeting that goes on between a few of the guys in the ASR Discord, where they'll produce the web cameras out and have a little bit of a face-to-face chat and stuff like that. It's all good fun, so it's good to see some of those. Now, some late breaking mail. There's actually a bit of information that we need to bring up to everybody's attention. Of course, there was 21 cars yesterday. The Evolution Racing Team car number 277. Doesn't look like the co-driver for that car has actually been able to make it for this round. So that's why the car was missing from the first grid race. And then came back for the second grid race, but unfortunately is a non-starter for this one. So that one is out. And the other question being asked, and you can see it there in the live chat about Braxton getting a co-driver. The answer to that is yes. The word went out, and we've got an iRacer by the name of Josh Andrew who's going to be hanging on to the second parts of the driving stints for car number 187, the Penrite Ryco Racing Commodore. That I'm not sure if he's actually. I believe he actually is going to be starting that car as well, because it's going to be starting off the back of the grid, along with the other hard luck story that came out of yesterday as well. The Kiwi Sim Sports car plummeting down the order late via the non-finish for Tim Redmond, lads.
Yeah, that was unfortunate end to Tim Redmond's charge up the grid after they had problems in that car, the number 718 in race one. So unfortunate for them, but it's great to see that Braxton Stancliffe has got a co-driver in that Penrite Ryco racing machine. And just while we're talking about them, thank you very much to Penrite and Ryco for sponsoring the Enduro Cup, the ASR Enduro Cup. It's great to have a pair of companies who are so entrenched in motorsport in this country across every single layer of motorsport, from grassroots all the way up to the main game, on board with us. So thank you very much. And yeah, it's a pleasure to have such impressive sponsors.
Absolutely, it's one of the very, very rare things I think with sim racing groups nowadays that they actually can have a big name on board to actually promote their product, and that's what we like to do. We like to afford those guys a good platform to promote their product. I mean, in natural real life anyway, Sandown is actually littered with a lot of Penrite sponsorship. There's the Penrite Bridge up the short run out of Dandenong Road up to the final complex, and it's usually plastered over the gantry that runs down to turn one. So that's what's been replicated in real life here in the ASR Enduro Cup. And then, of course, Ryco Filters, the professional's choice since 1936. They've put their name on a number of parts of drivers' cars across the years as well. Wing mirrors, all little associate sponsorships as well. So it's great to have those two iconic companies on board.
And of course, as well, sorry, Nether, Penrite sponsoring the retro round in the real supercars. So when I went to Sandown and Marshall in 2018, 2019, everything was littered with old school sort of paraphernalia, I guess, old race suits, old style jackets, and it was all thanks to Penrite and their sponsorship. So it's nice to have them on board with us when we're at Sandown once again.
And absolutely, and earlier this year when we had the Sandown round for supercars in the real life, it was actually the Penrite Oil Super Sprint. So it's synonymous with a lot of racing here at Sandown. Kiwi, over to you for this one. Let's sum up the racing from yesterday. We're going to be sitting here for a little while the drivers' briefing's being conducted. But let's sum up the pair of sprint races and the qualifying session from last night, because it was very, very hectic.
Incredibly hectic. We saw a qualifying session come down to basically the last minute. For the longest time, margins were measured in the thousandths of a second, it was Ethan Galt in the end setting the pole. But then we had the two sprint races, and they were just full of carnage and calamity, with some big names dropping down a lot further than they would normally be.
Yeah, and the probably none. I guess the big name you just mentioned there, Ethan Galt, and Damon Woods. So they were running up the front. They were challenging for the wins in both those races. And unfortunately for them, a couple of incidents put them sort of out of commission. So Damon Woods had a spin down at turn 4 in the grid race number 1 for him, and Grig Galt having a lunge at the Luke Rosella number 2 Parramatta Speedway Racing Commodore a couple of laps from home at turn 6, and just getting it all wrong there. So they're going to start second row of the grid. So not all bad news for them, though. That's the important bit. They're still up the pointy end of the field, but they probably would have been targeting a front row start. And there is a couple of cars that are out of position as well, especially within lieu of some of the penalties that have been levied as of last night for some of those incidents. For the better part, it was mostly clean racing. There were a couple of little incidents that did get reviewed, and a few guys that find themselves with a small grid drop for today.
And that's part and parcel of sprint racing, I think. Nothing that we saw was too egregious. It was just little contacts, little shuffles, everyone just trying their absolute damnedest to move their way further up the grid. And there were, as you mentioned, 1 or 2 point penalties that were applied. So Xavier Kokai took a 10 championship point loss for a incident in qualifying, but his car isn't going to be starting today. That's the number 277 car that we made mention of. And then there was a few other little things. Cheese, we saw his big dive into the back of Nathan Higginson, basically center punching the rear of the Commodore, sending that off at turn 1. So he's been penalized 2 grid spots for that. So that'll see the Cheese and I think it's NZ Snipes that he's sharing with.
Correct.
The number 420 car start from 11th on the grid, not 9th. And then there was an incident for RSM Latino with Nathan Higginson, who took a 10-point championship penalty for that one at turn 11. So right at the very end of the circuit. I'm not sure that we caught that one on the broadcast. And then something that we did catch on the broadcast, the melee between Dane Liccardo and Lime Mitch, a little bit of contact in the lead up to turn 4. So Mitch turned around, and so a 2-place grid drop for the Dane Liccardo car, which will start from 9th place today.
Correct. Yeah, so you're right. So it starts from 9th, so it was starting in 7th place. So yeah, it wasn't actually too bad in terms of some of the things we've seen. And look, that's just hard and fair racing for most of it as well. Most of the drivers just, as we said, there was a sense of urgency, Kiwi, in those sprint races last night. There was bound to be a few people come unstuck.
Oh, absolutely. And it wasn't just coming unstuck with penalties. It was just incidents of spinning on track, flipping on their roof in some cases. But it was actually a lot more aggressive than I thought it was going to be. The sprint races, sometimes you get the strategy of some cars pushing hard to come up the front, some being conservative. It seemed like most drivers were wanting to get as far up as they could. And I think it bodes well for what we're going to see in the 97 laps today.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's going to bode quite well. Let's have a look at the team standings, actually, because out of last night, there was some points awarded for the sprint events. So where you can see there, we're 0.05 or 0.5 partway through the first round. We haven't quite completed the full round just yet. But there you go. So the important part to take out of this, the Parramatta Speedway Racing team, car number 2 of Kurt Stenberg and Luke Rosella, does start from pole, and they actually won both the sprint races last night. So therefore, they have attracted the maximum number of points, which is actually a really good thing for them. We actually said to them last night that when they look at that, even if they have an average race today, they don't win it, but they finish inside the top 3. They're still going to walk away, or very close to walk away, with the championship lead after the day is over, which is good for them. But then look at the log jam behind. There's actually quite a couple of cars compared quite close to each other. So AAR car 44, which is off the front row of the grid, and the Will Devonish and Pete Savage Bogdown Motorsports Commodore, they pretty much traded spots in the 2 sprint races. They finished 2nd and 3rd apiece. They got even number of points, and then a bit further down you can see there's a big log jam here with All Australian Races car 13 has got 61 points. That's the Lime Mitch and Ujit Mishra car we were talking about a few moments ago. ERT 266, that's the Liccardo and Brenton O'Brien car. You've got Steve Burko and Darren Kemp in the C7 Motorsport car. You've got Lewis Wedding and Brennan Rossi in the Team Has-Beens car. So those guys have, despite the calamity and the carnage that went on in race number 1 and 2 yesterday, the races for the grid, it's actually not too bad for them. They're actually right in the thick of it in that midfield. I think a lot of drivers last night, Kiwi, would have probably walked away and gone, you know what, we've actually not had a bad night overall, and we're actually starting in a fairly reasonable spot and got a nice little amount of points to boot.
Exactly right. And even those that did have problems will be looking at it going, okay, today's a new day. We can turn around, start again. But I do think that, the way it's shaken out, the grid's actually very not too bad laid out, and I think we're going to be, like I said before, it's going to be a good race.
I think so too.
And
Chris?
I think that yes.
Sorry, yeah, no, all good. I mean, there's sort of a little bit of things I was about to throw to Flood, but yeah, you can continue.
That's all right. The one thing I was going to find interesting is how strategy works out, because if you're mired deep in the pack and you're a driver that you think you should be further up the field and you have the pace to be further up the field, is it worth looking at your pit stop strategy and seeing what you can do with that to try and get you out of traffic and make pace that way?
Yeah, that's a very, very interesting point, and we might throw to Flood for this one as well, because when it comes to running in a pack and working out what your strategy is going to be, Flood, what do you think of when you think of that?
So for me, the premium in an endurance race is clear air and clear track. Everyone loves to be in battles and it's exciting for a broadcast, but if you're trying to optimize your passage up the field, you want to be doing that in clear air. So for the guys who are a bit further back, who we might think have a bit more pace, the likes of Lewis Wedding and Brennan Ross and the team has-beens who had a problem in that second race of the grid, start from 17th today. So they're going to be looking for a way to get up the grid. The likes of Tim Redmond, who had that accident on the last lap, to see him DNF. Those sort of guys who have a bit more pace than those around them, I'd be trying to get out of that melee as soon as possible, take as early a pit stop as I can, and just run in clean air, and see how that plays out through the rest of the race. 97 laps here, it's a long journey, and we're running at 2 times fuel usage as well. So it's going to be a lot of pressure on the guys to manage that fuel with these long straights, to try and cut down on their fuel usage, try and find a little bit of extra flexibility in their strategies, because come the end of the race, that's going to be paramount. If I was driving, they're the sort of things I'm thinking about. How can I get into clean air? How can I make sure that I'm away from the carnage when it eventually happens? And how can I build flexibility into my strategy so come lap 90 or lap 85, I'm in the box seat to be fighting for the positions I want to be. A lot of pressure on the guys to manage that fuel with these long straights.
And I think that as well, with the way that
find a little bit of extra flexibility in their strategies, because come the end of the race, that's going to be paramount. This is something that I'm not really sure about.
Apologies, guys. We're it actually looks like we're having a little bit of an echo at the moment. We're just trying to figure out what's happening there, so please just bear with us for a moment. We'll try and figure out what's going on. This is actually a bit of a weird one. We've not seen this before. So one of those weird ones. So I've just had to very quickly mute the guys that are there. So I might actually just get Discord restarted here, and we'll see how we go. I think we might have actually figured out what might have been going on there. So that's a bit of a weird one. So I do apologise to the viewers. That was something that's one of those little technical hitches. We thought we might have actually had that settled yesterday, but yeah, something a bit weird there. Sorry, gentlemen.
That's all right. Good that we're getting all the technical calamities out of the way early in the piece.
It is. Yeah, it was a very crowded combox. A few guys were just saying there was a massive echo, and I could hear what was going on, but yeah, it didn't sort of go according to plan. It's I don't know. We put that one down to a PC drama, I think. There's something popped up that wasn't expected to pop up, and it took me a little bit of time to figure out the source of it. So we'll let that one go as planned, I think, or sorry, as unplanned as we think. So we've actually got a little bit of on-track action at the minute. So we're in the final throes of the warm-up session at the moment. So the driver's briefing has been completed, and we're just loading everybody in. So everybody that needs to jump into a car for the start of the race is in. There's 14 of the 20 starters that are currently in the server, and you can see a couple of drivers just making their way out of pit lane at the moment. Yes, you too. I have actually re-engaged your volume, so you can talk now.
Hello.
Hello, very good. Let's have a look at some of the cars at the moment on screen. So we've got the Cam Rutledge and Turmo number 51 Ford Mustang, which is a big throwback to the Glenn Seaton GSR and Ford Tickford days. Actually looks quite smart, the livery on that car. They've replaced the Ford Credit logo over the rear, or the GSR logo over the rear with the Cam Rutledge electrical logo, so they've done quite a nice job there. Now, if I go and have a look at the starting order for this one, those guys are actually going to be starting all the way down in 16th, so They've actually got a fair bit of work to do. And then behind them you can see the Napa Auto Parts car, the AP Sim Sports machine, belonging to Matt Cecil and Taipan, and Matt Cecil's going to open the batting for them, and they're actually going to be starting down in 19th, because of course they were a non-finisher in the second grid race yesterday.
Yeah, both of these cars ran into issues in their race for the grids. I think Cam Rutledge had a crash in race 1. And then Turmo, on his way back up the grid, had a spin at turn 1 as well. So he ended up dropping down to the tail of the field. So that's another car that should come up through the field during the day. And then Taipan had a game crash on, I think it was lap 2 of the second race of the grid. And so just completely crashed out the server, relegating him to the last row of the grid, which is unfortunate for the AP Sim Sports guys. Himself paired alongside with Matt Cecil. So they will be looking to move up the grid as well.
Yeah, you're not wrong there. And there's a couple of drivers that are just getting some of their practice starts over and done with, which is actually great to see. So you can see, Matt Cecil's had a bit of a moment there down at turn 4. It's actually a bit quiet in the pit lane, so it looks like we might actually not be too far away from getting a start here. So I think at the moment we've just rolled over into a very quick warm-up session. That way we can just set the grid, get everybody up and running, and we won't be that far away at all. So 20 starters out of the 22 registered for the event. There's actually a couple of drivers that are still yet to make their way into the server. So there's 17 we've got total, and I'm just looking to see who's currently absent, who's actually not in the game at the moment. So I can see the ERT, both the ERT cars that are starting are in there. Both the Locky Lock Motorsports Mustangs are in. The Penrite Ryco racing car with Josh Andrew behind the wheels, definitely there. Looks like we might be short one of the Nissans at the moment. I can't see the Cheese and NZ Snipes car in the list, so they're probably still yet to arrive. And there'll be another couple there as well. It's a bit hard to run through them all and try and pick up all the names and stuff there. I think Phil Boak might also be yet to join as well for PBF Race Engineering.
Yeah, so one or two guys still making their way downtown, walking. Sorry, I have to stop myself. 17 cars so far. We've got 15 minutes of buffer time before the start of the race, it looks like. It's everyone just jumping onto circuit for a little bit of a warm-up session. This will be the last chance for guys to check that their setups are working properly, that their driver changes are going to be working properly, all those little 1%ers, those little things that you need to fix up and make sure you've got ready as the cars will come out onto the track. So hopefully we'll see the likes of Phil Boak and I think maybe even Stephen Warwick and RSM Latino. I haven't seen their car make it to the session just yet. And yeah, so hopefully we get a full field of 20 cars today. That would be ideal.
It would be ideal. I just thinking, if you're Josh Andrew, you're going to start the race with no real practice. How are you feeling right now about it?
Nervous.
Very nervous, no doubt.
It's a bit of a responsibility to be thrown in to if he's coming from iRacing to a new sim in a new series in one of the biggest events that they've got, and you're going to be starting the race. It's admittedly from the back row of the grid, so he'll have a little bit of space around him, but that's getting thrown into the deep end mega style there.
Isn't it just?
Actually, let's see if we can find Josh Andrew. He's actually, I believe he's out there at the moment, going around. Yes, here he is on screen. So the car 187, the sponsor's car, I guess we're calling this one, the Penrite Ryco racing machine. He's definitely out there, and I haven't seen what times he's actually been doing. I know he's actually registered over at ASC. I'm not sure if he's completed any races over there in the last 12 to 18 months or so. The important thing is out. The important thing is the call that went out yesterday evening to try and find a co-pilot for young Braxton Stancliffe. He's actually the youngest member of the ASR community as well. I think he's only 14.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
there's a big spectrum of driver ages and driver skills, and it's good to see that the youngster that actually probably deserves to have a run, even if it's from a point of view of just getting experience and just gaining experience in different sims and different racing, that he's got a good experienced pilot alongside him. So it's good to see Josh answer the call, and big hats off to him at short notice. He's jumped in, he's been doing plenty of practice laps in the server that's been up this morning, the 2-hour warm-up session that we had this morning, and this is essentially the final throws of the session to get everybody in the server, make sure everyone knows what their setup is like, get the starts in order, and that's what they're doing right now. You can see a lot of them pulling over to the left-hand side and practicing those starts, because we saw yesterday some of the starts from drivers were really good, and it actually paid off for them, and then a few drivers had some really poor starts and they went backwards.
Yeah, so of course Hans Brunswick was the absolute cracker in race 1. I just want to track back just a little bit, Josh Andrews. So he's done so far 60 laps in the server with a best lap time of 1:08.6, which puts him in between Peter Thrower and Lachlan Locke in terms of the best outright pace. But the thing that strikes me is that of those 60 laps, 57 of them have been clean. So that's a big sign, a big good sign for an endurance race. So to the starts, Hans Brunswick was the absolute killer off the start in race 1 yesterday. He jumped from 6th to 3rd by the end of turn 3, and that turned into 2nd place when Damon Woods had his spin. And then on the flip side, Ethan Gridgold, again from 6th on the grid, made a cracking start to get into 2nd for race 2. So 6th on the grid seems to be a popular spot for good starts for today for Sandown. So we might see who's starting 6th today. Do we have that on hand? It is.
Yeah, we do actually have that on hand.
Steve Burko.
Yeah, it is. Steve Burko will be in 6th place. So the C7 Motorsport Nissan will be in 6th place for this one. And you know what was surprising me out of all this one as well, Flood? There was a couple of drivers we know are notorious for bad starts, and it's this pairing here, the Pete Savage and Will Devonish pairing. Pete Savage is going to start this car. They actually both had pretty reasonable starts yesterday. So far cry from what we've actually seen in Supercars Championship this year. They might, cross fingers, have finally got it together.
And they are starting from the front row.
They are indeed.
So if they get a poor start, we'll see it. Right?
Oh yeah, it will be very evident. It will be very evident. You know what we've just done? We've actually just gone and put the old commentator's curse on, haven't we?
Ever the optimist, Kiwi Chris, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, and it's balanced out by Stephen Devries being the pessimist. So, well, I don't know, do we meet in the middle? How do we meet in the middle when it comes to optimism and pessimism? It's like glass is half full, glass is half empty, but you're already in the middle.
I love it. Love you guys. So yeah, that'll be interesting to watch. I will be fascinated to see who starts from the 2nd row of the grid. Lachlan Burke and Hans Brunswick starting off from 3rd, partly due in fact to Hans's incredible start in the Race of the Grid Race 1. And then Ethan Gridgold and Damon Woods. Now, they were the fastest guys last night. They took home pole position, and they were one of the quicker guys in both races for the grids, but both Damon and Ethan had innocuous little spins. So not really what you want to be doing in an endurance race. I get that last night was a pair of sprint races, but for them, I think a good start will see them sitting very pretty. And they showed that they can do that last night, but I hope that they have ironed out those little concentration mistakes, pressure mistakes, because they're one of the big guns for today's action.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I think you called that one pretty perfectly, Flood, and I think Kiwi will probably back me up with this one as well. It was pressure mistakes. There was a sense of urgency in those sprint races last night, but if you were fast enough and you were comfortable enough, Kiwi, you really didn't need to push. You could have just sort of quite happily sat there in 2nd place and would have been on the front row for this one. But I mean, you're a race driver. You want the win, don't you?
Exactly. I mean, you talk about all the strategy, amongst your teammates and that. Hey, we're just going to be conservative. You're going to take it easy. You'll be happy with the front row or 2nd row start. Once the red lights go out, you're like, to heck with all that. We'll just try and win the race, because you're a race driver. It's what you do. You don't settle for 2nd.
No, definitely not. Now, there was coming out of that in terms of settling for 2nd, there was also a few dramas last night when we were having a chat to a number of the drivers afterwards about qualifying. We saw the big lash up of cars in pit lane as they all tried to get out onto track. I mean, within the first 30 seconds, every single car was out on track in a 15-minute session, which is almost unheard of in ASR Supercars competition. And there were plenty of drivers having to trip over each other in that qualifying session. Of course, they don't have to worry about any of that today. That's all over and done with and in the past. But it was an interesting discussion point because at the end of it all, most of the field actually ended up probably where they expected to be for qualifying that put them into the first grid race last night. So it was just interesting to see that, you know, some guys opt to wait, some guys opt to be a little bit more aggressive and want to get as many laps in as they can. But at the end of the day, the grid was almost where we probably expected most of it to be. Only one or two people out of position as opposed to half the field.
Yeah, and I think I saw an onboard from Rhodey's point of view in that qualifying session. It was a Monza situation. He had 4 or 5 cars going slow around the final part of the track. He had to blow past to get going. That's the thing with 15-minute sessions. There's not a lot of time. Even a short track like this, you only get, a handful of hot laps. Oh, bless you.
Sorry, thank you.
Thank you very much.
I did my best to try and muffle that. I apologise.
Because I'm tight. Very good.
And I've got my point now. Thanks, bud.
No problems. To follow on from that point, I was actually quite surprised at that. I think, to contrast, 15 minutes is plenty of time to find some space. I understand Sandown's not a big track, 3.12 or 3.18 kilometers. Yeah. So it's not a huge track, but you've got 15 minutes. That's a lot of time to find your own space. It doesn't need to be rushed out at the first lap of asking. And we saw, I think it was Luke Rosella on 2 occasions last night get walked by Rhodey at the fastest part of the circuit. And to me, that's not. If it happened once, okay, that's a happenstance. But for it to happen again at exactly the same part of the track a lap later, to me, that's just not smart driving. It's if you're gonna try and open up a gap to give yourself room, you need to open up a gap, find somewhere to basically park it up, or blitz past them if you've got the chance. It just seems to me that.
It was right here on screen, just at that turn 6 there, you're right. And as we said last night, the gap was about half a dozen car lengths between the 2 cars. You get to turn 6, the gap evaporated just because of how people feel confident enough taking turn 6, and the gap was gone by the time they got to turn 9, where Tim Redmond has just been through. So you're right, it's just, you know, sensible racing, trying to find a gap, and that's what we said. It's a case of some drivers probably just needed to hang back in the pits for an extra lap or two, or an extra minute or two, to find that gap and create that gap, so they would come out, they'd be on clear air, and they could get on with the business. Because the tow around here is not huge. The tow actually is reliant on you getting good exits off of the final chicane for the front straight and off of turn 4 for the back straight. And then the tow has a little bit of an effect, but you can't solely rely on the tow up these straights to drag you up to the car behind to make a pass.
And the tow for qualifying is almost detrimental up the back straight, because as soon as you get to the braking point for turn 6, that you get that aero wash across the front of your car. So you're actually kind of shooting yourself in the foot in that respect, because it's much harder to turn in, find that turn-in point. So it's almost a case of, again, what I think would be the better option is to find your own place on track as early as you can, even if that means waiting 20, 30, 40 seconds in the pits to start with. That to me seems like a smarter option in that instance. But again, racing drivers, they're all about finding the absolute maximum. We've got is that a 10-second drive-through penalty?
10-second stop-go for Brendan Ross. I don't know what he's doing out there, but he's lucky it's the warm-up session and not the actual race session. I think he's probably just he would have maybe got that for some sort of infringement during the session. I'm actually just seeing Brenton Foley at the moment, just in car number 074. I wasn't 100% sure whether he was starting that. I actually thought he was actually not meant to be starting, and my suspicions are confirmed. Actually, Philip Boak was listed to start that car, so maybe Boakey's actually having some dramas. So that's an interesting late braking change there. Maybe, I know Phil and Sarah Boak have obviously had their second child this year as well, so maybe there's a little bit of family drama that means Foley has to start. Actually, no, Phil Boak's just gotten in the car, so there we go. So that has been changed. And they've got that job done late, so Boakey will go out and do a couple of laps, and with a bit of luck, he'll be starting.
I think Rossi just got another penalty. I think is that just testing the system potentially?
I think it is. I've had a bit of a look. It's they've been manually assigned penalties, so that's. I think is Rossi the admin of the server at the moment, or is that Lewis Wedding?
Well, I think they're both logged in at the moment as admin to actually see what's going on. Yeah, they both are.
So they're basically just giving themselves penalties. So that's great. That's
Yeah.
for Team Has Been. That's exactly what you want to start.
I think so. I think they're actually looking at that just to see how things go, because there is going to be a little bit of an interesting debate today about how some of these penalties will work, because the game only allows you to add 30-second drive-through penalties and a timed stop-go. For any incident. So for a number of drivers, if they get having like a little minor indiscretion throughout the race, there might actually be some post-race time penalties that will be handed out, but the drivers will actually need to be notified that they have the time penalties, because you can't award a simple 5-second, 10-second one in-game to actually be added on at the end. It'll actually have to be added manually by the ASR stewarding team after the race is actually over.
Complicated stuff. It's almost like we're a real racing league.
Yeah, it is. There's been an incident for the roadie and Sever's car. What's going on there? He's had a little bit of a moment down there at off of turn number 1. Let's have a little bit of a look at that one on the Ryko replay. First Ryko replay of the day for the Sandown 300. And what has Zrolazak, or AKA Brad Severs, done here? We've been noting that the times have been improving. He just got a little bit unsettled over the inside curb at turn 1 and had a harmless spin out of the way. No foul done, didn't take anybody out, wiped a couple of the sponsors' boards out. Very well done. And off he goes.
Yeah, we did talk about it. Yeah, Brad's in the car at the moment, actually based in the US. He's don't think he's ever driven Sandown before this race. He's actually spent like 60, 70 laps in this morning's session just getting to grips with the car. His lap times are coming down. It's been as he just crashes into someone on the front straight.
Yep. No, that was Luke Rosella, I think, or Kurt Stenberg, sorry, who had a spin off of the final chicane, or the proper corners, as we like to call them, because we keep saying there's 3 inconsequential corners at this circuit. Turn 5, which is essentially a kink in the back straight, although it's counted. The kink that comes off of after turn 9, which is turn 10, under the Penrite Bridge. And then the last one, which essentially brings you onto the front straight, is just a nice little smooth, gentle bend in the front straight. But essentially those 3 corners are flat stick. One of them is coming up to now, as Rolazak is this one here. This is turn 5. And you see what we mean by inconsequential corners? It means that you really don't gain or lose any time by having to worry about negotiating them, because you're at full throttle.
Yeah, just finishing my point on Brad. It's great to see him improving. I've actually raced with him in other sim racing leagues on Forza. He's a great guy, and I actually hope he continues to improve and has a good result. I actually met him in person at Daytona one year.
Oh, wow.
There you go. He's actually based out of Indianapolis, I think, is his primary point of residence in the great state of Indiana, the home of my favourite team. As you see him go across the grass there, home of my favourite team, the Indianapolis Colts. They're actually playing tomorrow morning in the NFL. The NFL season's underway. That's the one thing I love about this time of year. It's the football season here in Australia is finishing, and the NFL is starting.
Now we're going to talk about much more exciting sports like cricket and biathlon. Everyone loves the biathlon.
Biathlon.
Yeah, this is something I got into a few years ago when the Winter Olympics were on in Pyeongchang. I just started watching biathlon, and then it turns out, as an Australian, you've got free access to the streams online. So I'm a biathlon fan now.
Wow.
I've never seen snow in person, but I love biathlon.
All right. Checkered flag has fallen on the warm-up session for this morning, the final warm-up session. There's a few last-minute practice starts going on by the looks of it. Everybody just tried to squeeze in those last little attempts at getting the practice essentially, or the practice starts essentially spot on. You can see a few of them up the back straight doing the same thing. There's Pete Savage. That's actually not too bad a start, although the back straight is slightly uphill, so that probably has a little bit of interest to play here. Interesting point. It's a very, very acute downhill run on the front straight. It's not 100% flat. There is a little bit of a slight decline towards turn 1. So There might be a few cars having to roll forward as well. They'll have to be sort of timing that a little bit. The car's got handbrakes. The mod has got handbrakes. So everybody will be able to use those to try and sort of hold the car, but then you've actually got to release that handbrake at precisely the right point before you then engage the clutch and the bite point to walk the car away from the line.
Yeah, something that I was very surprised about the first time I went to Sandown is that there's actual elevation change. It looks almost flat as a pancake on TV, but specifically in that first sector and the run on the main straight, it's actually surprising how much elevation difference there is between, say, the exit of turn 1 and the apex of turn 4.
And because you've pushed broken cars up the hill at turn 4.
Yeah. Do not advise. Not a fun time.
No, definitely not. I don't advise either. The marshals at a lot of places actually do a fantastic job with everything that they do. Well, here we go. Cars are starting to line up on the grid. We are about to get underway. Race session not too far away from starting. There it is, 97 laps, 300 kilometres, and there is a driver change required in this one, or multiple changes depending on how you are planning to execute the strategy. Just a reminder, minimum driver distance per driver is 39 laps, or 40% of the allotted race distance. Both drivers must clear that mark before, in order to be classified at the end of the day. So here we go, first round of the Enduro Cup. A little bit of a smoother start to things today. Kurt Stenberg taking on pole position. The pair of wins last night means that car number 2 has prime position on the front row of the grid. Alongside Peter Savage for Bogdown Motorsport and Holden, he'll be sharing duties with Will Devonish today. Hans Brunswick takes on the 3rd place position in car 44, the Napa Auto Parts All-Australian Racers Mustang. There was some clutch dramas yesterday for Lachlan Burke, although he's got that repaired. They're sort of not wanting to risk it, and with Hans' starts, why would you not want to go with that option again? Damon Woods is starting car number 288 for Evolution Racing Team, and he'll be handing over to Ethan Griggold at some point during the day. Phil Boak starts car 074 for PBF Race Engineering, and he shares row 6 with the first of the Nissans in Steve Burko, the C7 Motorsport Pro Line Nissan Altima. Lockie Lock has been a beneficiary of one of the penalties that was levied this morning. Car 237 is probably one of the highest starts for Lockie Lock on any grid he's been taken part of here in ASR. He is starting in position 7. He's got Peter Thrower alongside, so they've actually repaired the brake pedal in that car, or on that gentleman's sim rig overnight, and it appears to be holding so far for car 56. Brenton O'Brien starts the 2nd of the ERT Commodores, car 266, sharing with Dane Liccardo, and then Urjit Mishra in the number 13 AAR Mustangs. Both the AAR Mustangs inside the top 10. Cheese has a grid penalty starting car 420 from 11th. He's alongside the 2nd of the LLM Mustangs with Ben Hall at the wheel to start things off there. Nathan Higginson will hand over to Daniel Cox at some point in the split livery HB Powerhouse Design Commodore. RSM Latino, or Cuz Berenweiler, will start the RSM Blackshaws number 50 of 14th. Brad Severs will start car 45 from 15th alongside Cam Rutledge in the CRE Motorsport Mustang. Rounding out the back 2 rows, Brendan Ross in the Team Has Been Mustang. Tim Redmond in 18th place, the Kiwi Sim Sports number 718. And then here they come, Matt Cecil, the last of the Mustangs, the AP Sim Sport car number 23, and Josh Andrew, who is the late braking substitute for the departing Cole Warwick, and he starts car number 187 from the last row and the last spot on the grid. Here we go. Everybody's getting set. There's the drivers. They're all sitting there. They're all getting ready. Some of them are watching on. Some of them are getting ready to start. Look at the concentration faces on some of these guys. They're all taking their last deep breaths before we go live for this one. Right, away we go. Very, very quick start, and a very, very good start off the front row for Kurt Stenberg. Good start by the top 4, fairly even. Looks like the Damon Woods has just caught the sucker hole here at the moment. Hans Brunswick slides through into position number 2 and is now going to have to play a little bit of defence to hold on to position 2. Does that well. Pete Savage now manages to get a little bit of a run, but a late sort of resurgence here from Damon Woods. Sees him
Oh,
go into
wrong
position,
car around.
and we've got a car around already. There's a car around, which is the Steve Burko C7 Motorsport Nissan. That's going to plummet to the bottom of the field. It's at the back here. We'll be able to get going. We're going to just a local yellow. But was he tagged in that one? I'm not 100% sure. Let's have a look.
I think it was just a lazy spin for Burko, gassing it up on the curb on the exit of turn 4. He was right behind Peter Savage there, and in fact I think there was a little bit of contact to the rear of Peter Savage's car, which might have unsettled the front. But he will be at the back of the grid. And we said before the race he was starting from 6th, which yesterday was the place to be for the cracking starts. But today, once again, it was Hans Brunswick who jumped into 2nd place, but Kurt Stenberg already with a 1.5 seconds over the field. He's out in front as we finish lap 1.
There's an early stopper as well in the pits. Who's in the pits? It's actually Cam Rutledge. Looks like he got a drive-through penalty for jumping the start, so that's a little bit of a disaster for car 51 early on.
Not the way you want to start your race at all. Pit lane penalty for jumping the start. At least it's 96 laps to go to make that margin up, but that's already a good 30-second time loss. Out front, Kurt Stenberg's pulled away quite easily. 1.6 already on the start as we go halfway around lap 2.
There we go. Hans Brunswick in P2, Damon Woods P3, and it's a good start, or it's a reasonable start for the Bogdown Motorsports car number 10. So they were on the front row. They had a little bit of a tardy start. It wasn't terrible, but they just got swamped into turn number 1 and got boxed out through the chicane. So they've ended up back in 4th place. Good start by Phil Boak. Actually, great start by Ujit Mishra. He's up to P6, having started in 10th.
And he's looking for a move here on Phil Boak as they come into the chicane. Not quite opening up for him there. But a nice run down the main straight. We'll see him in the slipstream. A bit of a gaggle behind them though. Lachlan Locke and then the pair of Kiwi Sim Sports cars. They're going 3 wide in the background here. Have a look at this as they come down the main straight.
Yeah, here they are. They're a bit further back as well. So Lockie Locke's got his hands full with a pair of Kiwi Sim Sports Nissans. Through goes Cheese on Peter Thrower, so that's actually a fairly good move as well. He's made up a couple of spots since the beginning. Started 11th, he's now up to 8th, so already recouped the 2-spot loss that he incurred at the beginning of the race and some. So very, very positive signs early on for the Kiwis. Speaking of the Kiwis, where's Tim Redmond in all of this? Because he started at the back. He's actually made his way up to 14th, and he's right on the back of the Brad Severs and Rody Commodore, the Firelight PBF or Satellite Peugeot, whatever the hell you want to call it. And down the inside here, bit of a late sort of a large, he's had a front row seat to what was very nearly a big aeroplane crash there, with those Severs potentially running into the back of Brenton O'Brien. And now Redmond seizes the opening down at turn 9, makes a very nice pass.
Ahead of them, we've got Ujit Mishra's just gone off track, actually.
Oh, he has. He's had an off-track excursion here at the final chicane. So I think he's tried to make a move, and he's got a flat tyre. He's got a flat tyre, big lock-up on the front left.
The reason is he had a massive moment at turn 6, just trying to get through on Phil Boak. Speared the car hard right over the tarmac into the wall, and so he is suffering greatly with that. Also, guys, I reckon Hans Brunswick's got a problem. I reckon he's not able to get full throttle. Something's wrong with that car because he is down on straight line speed, and he's dropped now behind both Damon Woods and Peter Savage.
Oh, he has too. Yeah, Damon Woods got past him at turn 1 a couple of laps ago.
And the gap was substantial before that as well. Let's have a look at his sector times. It's a 26.7 to the first sector for Brunswick. Damon Woods, Kurt's in the 25s. So there's something definitely wrong with that car at the moment.
Yeah, just trying to get a read on the speed at the moment, Kiwi. Might have to go on board and actually have a look just to see what sort of speeds he's doing. We'll now sort of get a real idea, top-end speed, when he comes down the front straight, as to what he's actually achieving. You can see it on the dash there. There's the readout. It's actually up to 200 now. And the approach to turn 1 is 260 k's an hour. And he's sort of just starting to get up there now. So I think top straightaway speed might not be all that bad. It's just maybe it's not got the drive that he wants. Maybe they've gone for a different gear ratio or something for a little bit of a longer run. Let's see how he fares coming off of turn 4 here. He gets the approach up to towards turn 6 again, around about 260, 265 is what we're expecting to see. It is a long race. I'm not seeing anything on the dash that's sort of alarming me at the moment in terms of the ultimate top-end pace.
No,
it's the weird one.
He's definitely matching. He's a couple of kilometres down on Peter Savage ahead, but nothing alarming at all.
You know what I reckon he's doing? I reckon I've just figured it out. I reckon he's already on the Lifton coast. I reckon Hans and his partner Lachlan Burke, they might be trying to play a long game here, trying to conserve some fuel early and see if they can build some flexibility back in at the back end of the race. It is a bit surprising to me, though, to be thinking about that this early on in the piece, because we are only lap 5 into an almost 100 lap race. So they might have a game plan here. They might be trying to save a stop.
We just saw the car 420 come into the pits as well then. Cheese. He's actually gone a lap. He's been lapped now.
He has gone a lap down, so that's a very early lap down for car 420. Not quite sure what's happened there. He was in the back end of the top 10. Actually puts the Brendan O'Brien and Dane Liccardo ERT 266 into the top 10. They were actually starting 9th, so they've only lost the one spot, which is not too terrible. Actually, have a look here as well. So Lockie Lock has moved up an extra spot as a result of what happened ahead. And look behind, Nathan Higginson. Actually, this is a big surprise. He's one of the big movers at the moment, along with the likes of Tim Redmond, who's now inside the top 10, actually doing quite well. Back a shot there. Nathan Higginson's moved up 6 spots from the start here, so it's a good, solid opening run for car 00, and in a good spot for when they hand over a bit later on if you can keep it going. The surprising bit here is, and you gentlemen will both know this, Nathan Higginson's got a bit of a heavy right foot at times.
Let's put it mildly.
Let's put it mildly.
Just a quick answer on what happened to Cheese. He actually had a moment at turn 1, spun, hit the inside wall between turns 1 and 2, so he probably picked up some damage, hence the early pit stop. Nice to see Higo moving up the field. He's got company in the form of Lachlan Lock just ahead of him. And there were 2 Nissans there moments ago, but we saw Cheese have his issue, and I think Peter Thrower also had some sort of spin because he had a very slow first sector a lap or 2 ago. So now that's just Higginson and Lockie Lock in that little battle as Higginson backs it in at turn 4. Another driver I want to put a bit of a spotlight on is Brad Severs in 11th place, up 4 positions in this early stage of the race.
He is. He's been a bit of a beneficiary here, Kiwi, of the Nissans having some dramas and falling through the field. So, of course, Steve Burko, Peter Thrower, who was ahead of him, and Cheese was ahead of him as well, because these guys started down in 15th. So, of course, 3 of those spots that they've gained have been through early attrition in the opening laps.
But Flood alluded to this before. Keeping it clean is just as important as keeping it quick if you're a mid-pack runner. And that's what he's doing at the moment.
And having a look at the sector times as well, he's actually not doing too badly to hang on to the back of Brendan O'Brien here. He's a little bit more of an experienced campaigner, especially through the iRacing ranks. So this is actually not too bad a position for these guys to be in if they can just keep that same sort of pace. It's like the old carrot dangling in front of you, isn't it?
It is, and just seeing where he's, you can learn from him too. Just where can you maybe get a little more time, and if we look at that lap, for example, it was actually quicker by a substantial. No, it wasn't. It was a tenth slower, but that's not bad.
No, definitely not too bad at all. And we wait to see how all that pans out. There's actually another little battle just starting to brew behind them, or just in front of them as well. I can see Tim Redmond getting ready to, looks like, make a move here on the LLM Motorsport car of Ben Hall. He's just a little bit further up the road. There they are, approach to turn 6. And through they go. And this is actually not looking too bad for the Kiwi Sim Sports car. Of course, it's got to hand over to the very fast Scott Stancliffe. Will take this car on at some point or another in the day. Coming back to your point before, Flood, with Hans Brunswick maybe on the Lifton coast already, I think a number of drivers have worked out that it's going to be 2 strategies here. It's either going to be the 4-stop or the 3-stop. And if they can get a bit of fuel saving in, they might be able to squeeze a 3-stop, and that's if they actually opt to change drivers at the end of the second stint. So essentially each driver will be doing a double.
Yeah, so that kind of works out quite nicely if you can make it a 3-stop, because it's 2 stints each driver as Tim Redmond makes a move on Ben Hall through turn 2 and 3. Very nicely done there for Tim. That kind of cuts the race into 25 lap chunks, which is nice and manageable. And you could even do 1 stint each in that respect. Do 1 AB in that respect. As there's a spin in the background, it's Steve Burko again at turn 4.
Yeah, you're not wrong. He's actually recovered. Here you go, Kiwi.
And sorry, there's also been a spin at turn 6 as well. I was looking at that. That's what my reaction was about between Nathan Higginson and whoever he was battling with at the time.
Oh dear, yeah. So that was Lockie Lock. So Lockie Lock's out of that battle. So that's another position for Higginson. So, oh dear. So there's a little. And what's happened to Lockie Lock? He's actually recovered a couple of back to the track, but he's lost a couple of spots out of all that one. Gone back down to P9, having started in 7th overall. So. Bit of a shame. Some early mistakes. This is a little bit of an interesting thing. The early mistakes that are starting to creep in for a lot of these drivers is they're starting to put them on the back foot very, very early. We're only at the 1/10th race distance as well. So this is the interesting part now is how can some of these drivers that need to recover, they're going to need one thing at the moment, and that's called a good old safety car.
Well, I'd be hard-pressed to call what happened to Lachlan Lock a mistake there. Higginson and Lock went side by side into turn 6 and made contact in the turn-in point. So it was actually very lucky that Lachlan managed to hold onto a very sideways Mustang there and rein it in before it hit the wall. So lucky for him to only drop 2 further places, and maybe that's something that will be looked at either mid-race or a bit later on. I think just from my view of a racing incident, but I'm sure that the Lockie Lock Motorsports 237 team will feel maybe a little aggrieved at that. The other point I wanted to make about the 4-stop strategy is that is probably if you've got a driver pairing that has a clear A and a clear B driver, that's probably the optimal pairing in the optimal strategy to minimize your B driver time in abiding by the rules of the race. So the B driver has to do 39 laps as the minimum. So if you do 4 stops, that's 20 laps a stint effectively, which means that you can clear out your B driver at their minimum laps and then have your A driver in for as long as you can get. So they're probably the two strategy options, the sort of even driver strategy and the split driver strategy, we're going to call them.
Yep.
And it'll be interesting to see which teams go which way. We are still at least 10 minutes, 10 laps away from seeing any pit action, though.
Yeah, right.
Any substantial pit action, that is.
Well, Kiwi, what avenue do these guys go with that are on screen right now? Steve Burko and Darren Kemp. You can see here with Steve Burko down here in the teams meeting. He's the one that's piloting that car at the moment. With everybody watching on, great camera angles that we're looking at here with all of the live racing and the meeting and everything going on. They've had 2 spins. The 2 of them, Darren Kemp and Steve Burko, pretty well paired with each other. What do they do now? Do they try and maybe extend a little bit, or do they maybe have to try and maybe come in and go for that 4-stop strategy instead of maybe trying to extend for the 3? What do you think?
I think the key for them at the moment is make sure they stay on the lead lap. So go as long as you can, pit after the leaders pit. So whether that means if the drivers are similar, that if you can make a 3-stop strategy work, that's what I'd go for if I was them. Because going to lap down here is very easy to do, especially when you're almost a lap down already. So you stay out as long as you can.
Yeah, it's basically the front straightaway is the deficit between Kurt Stenberg and Steve Burko at the moment. Flood, do you agree? Do you think they have to stay out as long as they can and go along to try and keep themselves from going a lap down?
Absolutely right. Kiwi's nailed that on there. The paramount is to stay on the lead lap, because if you're off the lead lap and a safety car happens, then you are absolutely done. That is your race effectively over. So making sure that they stay on the lead lap is priority number 1, and then any other strategy they can play out around that is a bonus, as we've got actually Hans Brunswick setting his new personal best of the race, a 8.7, which kind of shows you where his pace is compared to the 3 ahead of him who have best laps in the 7s. Another thing I wanted to just pick up on, Tim Redmond made his way past Nathan Higginson, so Redmond now into 6th place after starting from effectively the rear of the grid. So a great recovery drive from him. And I do want to just quickly bring attention to Josh Andrew, who started the race in the Ryko Penrite car. He is now up to 13th, so up 7 positions. Remember, drafted into this car overnight, only been doing practice laps this morning, and already up 7 positions.
Very, very solid move to get that guy into this car for the Penrite and Ryko Commodore. So he's been very, very clean. Have a look at his lap times at the moment. The last lap was a minute 10.1. He was actually 0.4 of a second quicker than Brad Severs ahead of him in the number 45 Peugeot Par PBF Commodore. It was another 6 seconds up the road. So he's got plenty of time to work on that one. And you can just see, probably just in that foregrounder shot there, he was just down at the bottom of the hill. If we actually go on board with him, he turns the corner here. Nope, the roadie and Sever's car has just gone out of view and around the final chicane. Sort of, there you can see them. There they go. There goes the car he's chasing, that white car that just flicked across the front of the windscreen just there. So you can see he hasn't got too far to go. Let's have a little lap time this time around to see actually what he does. It is a 1 minute 10.5. And the car ahead was also a 1 minute 10.5, so it was even Stevens that time around. This is probably getting into the point where they're just wanting to coax the car along to the first set of pit stops and see some activity. There was a little bit of a wild moment in the back of shot there for Peter Thrower, who got a bit crossed up over the turn 1 exit curb, but he's kept it going the right way. Oh, and RSM Latino. Yeah, Latino's gone around at the back as well, and this is
straight across the circuit, and Cam Rutledge just misses Latino there. Oh, that was a little awkward for RSM Latino and Cam Rutledge coming through turns 3. Looks like Latino, from my view, just looked like he got a little too much of the curb at turn 2, actually, which is what unsettled the car, and then over the top of turn 3 and spun to the inside.
Yep, here we go. Yeah, he just got on the curb, just got on the gas, and doesn't look like there was any contact there. So Thrower got through, Burko got through, but I mean, he was nose into the fence. Oh, great evasive actions. Cam Rutledge saw it happening very, very early, jammed on the anchors, threw out the boat anchor, as you would call it, and got away with one there.
That very, very close.
Extremely close.
It's always awkward when you have a car basically perpendicular to the track surface as you approach a blind corner or on the exit of a blind corner. Rutledge did very, very well there not to absolutely pin the passenger side door of RSM Latino's Commodore.
And he has carried on, so he obviously had no significant damage that he can't persevere with for a few more laps until the pit stop window opens.
Yeah, we're having a look here as well. We're getting a report through that RSM Latino is suffering a little bit of server lag as well. Steve Oryx just popped that in the chat, and that would actually sort of back up what I've just seen when I actually ran that replay. It looked like it was a little bit of a drama. We have actually switched server hosts overnight. Will Devonish has taken on some of the hosting responsibilities for tonight, also for today after the dramas from last night. Probably a bit of a sensible move just to make sure that we had the one hosted for the Bathurst 500 and hosting for this one as well. Latino presses on. Here's another good story. Guys that started 17th, Brendan Ross and Lewis Wedding, they're now up to 10th, so they're in the 10 and in a good position to hand over. Their next target is the Lockie Lock Mustang, and they're actually a good 0.6 of a second quicker last time around. There's the car they're chasing through the thing here. Brendan Ross, surprisingly, no curb that time around at turn 2, but a little bit at turn 3.
Oh, I just had eyes on Phil Boak, who I'd been tracking, slowly catching Hans Brunswick, and he almost found the wall at turn 6. It was a great bit of driving to keep that car pointed in the right direction, but he's lost half a second, more than that, just in that sector alone.
Yeah, last lap around for Phil Boak, he was a little bit slower, but he'd found some time. Chris?
Yeah, I've been keeping an eye on him as well, because Tim Redmond is currently where he was 11 seconds back, now 9. He's been gaining good 2-3 tenths a lap.
And now that's 2 seconds in that one lap just because of that one mistake.
Yeah, he's done an 11 flat there as Phil Boak, and we're waiting for Tim Redmond to cross the line and see what he's going to do. And he's done a 9 flat. So, yeah, big 2-second swing in that little battle as well. So this is actually looking good for the Kiwi Sim Sports number 718 at the moment in the pursuit of a much better result compared to what they got last night. I mean, they got some points. That's the important thing. They got plenty of points in the bank. But they're moving forward very, very nicely, and you can see there the gap is just slowly starting to be eroded here. I think maybe Phil Boak in that first sector, actually, again, it's gone the other way. It's 2/10 gain to Tim Redmond, so it's very slowly coming up Kiwi Sim Sports for them at the moment. And the man he dispatched off a few laps ago, Nathan Higginson, has actually got a face full here of Ben Hall's Mustang. This is actually a good drive for Ben Hall to start with. He's plodded along and actually been, I was about to say as we put the mockers on him, there he goes, a little bit of a lock up into turn 9, but he's been plodding along quite nicely, and on top of that, he's actually been getting quicker and quicker and quicker through some of the series we've seen, and looking at a pass here on the inside at 11, and that puts him on the wrong side for this one. A little bit of bump and grind, a little bit of door banging and elbows out from these two, and they're going to run side by side and continue to argue the point down to turn 1.
This is going to be a good old-fashioned drag race. I think Higginson's going to have the inside line into turn 1. The question is, can Ben Hall go on the brakes late enough to get the move done? No, he can't, so he goes back behind him.
No, good hold. Good hold for
Very good
Higginson.
hold.
And now takes the defensive line. So he's been learning that over the last couple of weeks, how to attack and how to defend. And that's actually a very, very nice hold. But I fear at this stage, just with some of the speed that Ben Hall Mustang is showing, I think it might be all in vain a little bit at the moment, because Hall has really got a bit of a second wind here as the tyres are starting to wear off, or wear down rather.
I think it's only a matter of time and a matter of picking the right moment for Hall. Higginson, remember, he was up ahead quite some way of Tim Redmond earlier on in the race, so he's actually losing some time, losing some pace as well. So Hall here, he's actually come back onto this battle, and he's looking very, very nicely to make a move, maybe this lap or the next.
Through the final couple of corners of the complex they go. He's not quite close enough, I think, to really make full effect of the slipstream this time around. But they're actually doing, they've actually been driving quite solidly, those two. And then you can see in the back of shot, Brennan Ross still continuing to close on the other LLM car, the Locky Lock Motorsports 237. So this is a good showing by the two LLM Mustangs inside the top 10 and comfortably inside the top 10 at the moment, and just going about their business very, very nicely.
Yeah, nice start for the two LLM cars. A great run from where they qualified. Unfortunate for Locky Lock, that incident with Higo at turn 6 has dropped him behind the sister car. But all in all, a great start to the race for them. I just want to bring our attention quickly, Nether, to the front group, because Kurt Stenberg and Damon Woods, they're actually making their way through a bit of the delayed traffic. The likes of RSM Latino, Ujit Mishra, Cam Rutledge, and then soon Peter Thrower, Matt Cecil, Steve Burko. They're all going to be complicating factors very, very shortly.
You read my mind. I was about to hand this over to Chris because, yes, Chris, the lead and Flood, the leaders are starting to encounter the lap traffic. Thankfully, at the moment, it's coming for them at the right points on the circuit. It's coming on the straightaways, and they're realising what's going on. The next one was a little bit of an awkward moment there for Peter Thrower and Matt Cecil, having to shortcut the chicane on the back there. As Stenberg goes through, and you can see that Damon Woods has executed the pass on Cam Rutledge down there at turn 9 very cleanly as well. So there is a little bit of traffic to go, and now Stenberg's just held up a little bit on the approach to 12.
That's really awkward, because those cars are actually battling for position as well.
Yeah, that was very interesting that Peter Thrower actually just let Stenberg go past there, because that's actually completely dropped him away from the rear of Matt Cecil. Maybe a bit of a no good deed goes unpunished there for Peter Thrower, who kind of threw away half a second to the person he's trying to compete against.
Yeah, long race as well, I think they're looking at as well. They know they've probably got a little bit of pace in hand over the Matt Cecil car at the moment, so they're probably just playing themselves into a spot where they're going to be comfortable. You can see here, look, he's actually already made up that deficit as we look behind Stenberg, so he's almost back right under the rear wing of car 23 again, is Peter Thrower. So I don't think he's actually lost too much out of that. That'll just be an assessment of the car speed and knowing where they're stronger and where they're weaker compared to the car behind. As we've got an early stop. We've got an early stopper, and it's Lachlan Lock. So this is right on the end of lap 20 for these guys. So this is a little bit earlier than I would have thought. This means these guys haven't been saving fuel. They're essentially now committing to the 4-stop strategy if they're going this early.
Absolutely. This is right on target for the 4-stopper. So Lachlan Lock driving with, if I can bring up my spotter's guide real quickly, he's
driving with Justin Cecil. And the question is he going to hand it over to Cecil, or is he going to stay in the car? Thrower in as well. So a couple of guys going to the 4-stop and a handover. So that's a handover to Justin Cecil, first driver change of the day.
And we might see Peter Thrower put Freakish in the car as well on number 56. It looks like they're doing a drive change. No, it is just Peter Thrower staying in. So diverging strategies between the two guys taking the early pit stops. But yeah, as we may mention, they're effectively committing to the 4-stop at this early stage in the race. So
No,
interesting choice.
They have changed. They have changed. And Tim Redmond in now as well. So again, 4-stop strategies really starting to play out. So early. A few drivers starting to come a little bit earlier than we probably would predicted. We were hoping some drivers were probably going to come around about lap 20, lap 21 for the 4-stoppers, and then a number of drivers are actually continuing to plod on here as well.
Question is, what do you do if you're Tim Redmond? Do you keep going?
Got to be careful though too, because of where you're actually going to feed back out into some of this traffic as well. Actually, here comes the race
Kurt
leader.
Stenberg and Damon Woods.
Oh, and there's been a bit of a late sort of a stop as well. So they're mirroring each other. Stenberg actually was a little bit quick coming into the lane, and he actually had to put the anchors on very, very quickly. I think he might have just to make sure he was actually stopped before the control line. That's actually put the ERT number 288 right onto their hammer going into pit lane, so he lost a big advantage there.
Absolutely. So that's Stenberg and Damon Woods also committing to the. They're right in between. What do you reckon? Because it's 22 laps. If you extend that out over 4 stints, that's 88 laps. So that's not going to be enough.
No,
so they're committing to a 4-stop as well.
You need to get to about lap 24 on the 4-stop. And there's been a jump in pit lane, has there? Not quite. Not quite. But the 2 drivers that were in the cars have stayed in the car. So Stenberg just will get out ahead here. But both of them are going to have cold tyres. They're going to have tyres up to pressure. But they've got to get on with it. And they've just gotten out ahead of Peter Thrall. So they've got clear track to argue this down to 1. But already looking for tyre temperature is Damon Woods.
So this leaves Peter Savage and Hans Brunswick as the 2 leaders, with Phil Boak in 3rd, Ben Hall now in 4th, Brendan Ross in 5th, and then this battle, Stenberg and Woods. So a bit of a changing face of the race already now, as we've got more pit callers. Josh Andrews, Nathan Higginson, Matt Cecil. Now Peter Savage is in from the lead. RSM Latino in from the back of that group. So, and Hans Brunswick continues. Cheese and Phil Boak in as well. So it looks like Brunswick is going to be the only one that I can see of the top group who are really trying to make the 3-stop work.
Yep, I agree with that, and I think that it's probably going to be the same for the Lewis Wedding and Brendan Ross Team Has-Beens Mustang as well. If they're going this long, they're trying to get it as far as they can.
Yep.
So Josh Andrews stays in the car. Taipan now in for the All-Australian Races car. Peter Savage stays in. Let's see where Savage comes out in relation to Stenberg and Woods. No, they're already
well and truly gone. So he's actually coming out of the lane now. So he's dragging out with him. He comes out behind Peter Thrower, ahead of Brenton O'Brien. So the pit lane, a bit of a hive of activity now.
Yeah, and I think we saw Tim Redmond stay in the car as well.
He did, correct. He did. Tim Redmond did. So he's actually came back out 17th overall, but he's already started re-advancing up the order as the field starts to cycle.
Phil Boak out now in 9th. Ujit Mishra, who hasn't taken a 2nd stop after his damage early on the race, he's up into 8th place now. Just behind, he's got Steve Burko ahead of him in 7th. So these guys are trying to play themselves into a better position through the pit stop cycle. Now Hans Brunswick, he's continued around for another lap. This is going to be a 25-lap stint for Hans. So whatever fuel risk-bringing we noticed him doing early on the race, this is going to absolutely save them a stop if Lachlan Burke can do the same thing in this car.
Yeah, absolutely.
Brendan Ross as well he's just come to the pit lane now. They actually had some screen lag on him, so he's come in now.
Yeah, they have. So there goes Kurt Stenberg and Damon Woods. They've now gone through. Brendan Ross, you can see in the pits, there's a couple of drivers that are just slowly cycling through the pit lane. But good run for Brendan Ross there. He is in pit lane, and the last of the calls coming in. Here comes Brenton O'Brien. So out of the cars still on track, yet to stop. Here they all come now. There's the Steve Burko. Nissan coming in. They've actually got the top spot in pit lane. It's just Brunswick and Mishra, I think, as Flood continues to tell me something is going on.
Stenberg and Damon Woods came across Brad Severs in probably the most awkward part of the track between turn 2 and 3, and there was a little bit of push and shove as Woods tried to latch onto the rear of Stenberg through that section of track, and Severs was just in the wrong place at the wrong time, and a little bit of contact, a little bit of boxed out, but they've all managed to play on. Just a little bit more of a gap between Stenberg and Damon Woods as we see Hans Brunswick in the lane.
Yep, he is in the lane. Back a shot there as Lewis Wedding leaves. So there's another driver change gone on there for the team. First driver change for the team has been number 5 Mustang. They actually come out in 8th place. That's a really good, solid run for those guys. Having started right down the very back of the grid, almost to the rear of the grid. They've made their way up inside the top 10. And continue on. So where's Brunswick now feed out in all of this? Has he stayed in the car? Yes, he has. Yes. So he's going for another stint. So 25 laps on the fuel plus the formation lap. That's the big kicker here. So these guys are definitely committing to the 3-stop strategy for sure. As they exit the lane, where do they come out? They're currently 4th. Actually, now they've gone down to 5th. And there's Phil Boak. So these guys were running, where were they running before the stops?
They were running in
4th. And then they've gone down back to 5th.
Yeah, and that's because Ujit Mishra hasn't yet taken a 2nd pit stop. So that's the Tamiya, the team car, the All Australian Races team car for Hans Brunswick and Lachlan Locke. So they're running a long stint as well after Mishra's early off. But they basically come out exactly where they were in relation to Phil Boak and the PBF race engineering car just behind them. And it'll be interesting as there's a traffic jam at Dandenong Road, and there's a bit more bargy going on with Peter Savage, Darren Kemp, Josh Andrews, and Freakish facing the wrong way.
And we've got a safety car has been called because this is a free kick. This is the guys that were a lap down. This is a big free kick to them. It's actually a big free kick to Urjit Mishra as well because he can take his stop currently from 4th place. It's not going to penalise them too much. So the HSV Camaro safety car has been called for. And it hasn't actually left the lane yet. It's actually waiting for the leaders to come around again. They'd already crossed the start-finish line, so it's a bit of a free kick for Mishra, who's now in the lane. Peter Thrower's now come in and is getting whatever damage is repaired there.
Freakish in that car at the moment.
Sorry, Freakish in that car, correct. So there has been... this is interesting. This is an interesting time for a safety car. Right after the pit stop sequences for most of the leaders has been completed.
Yeah, so I'm just going to go take a look at the replay of that entire sequence to figure out what happened. So it looks like Kemp was on the inside of Freakish coming into turn 6. They both ran wide, and then it was Josh Andrews and Peter Savage who rounded up behind them. Andrews made it through, then there was a bit of contact, and then there was a lot more contact, and it saw the two Nissans in that group, both Kiwi SimSports Nissans, getting into each other effectively, and Freakish coming to a complete stop against the wall. So that's why the safety cars come out, and we see it now on track.
Oi, there's actually been a collision going on here. So Freakish has been run into by Higginson. Now, they were instructed to pass the safety car because that's typically what you're supposed to do when you're a lap down and caught between the leader and the safety car. You have actually got to get that done. So that's an interesting one. What happened there? They were... see here, we'll just cut to it just as it happened. So the safety car had come out just as Freakish was exiting the lane. I think this is an attention fade here, or a lack of attention. Yeah, Freakish's gone deep. Higginson's just missed the brake pedal there. And I think that one might have a little bit of answering to do for the HME 00 Motorsport machine.
That was incredibly bizarre. I was going to be able to say Freakish has just come out behind the safety car, so it worked out well for him, but that's put pay to any benefit he would have got.
And just quickly, guys, Urjit Mishra in the All Australian Races car with that pit stop is actually now a lap down, but it's showing to me that as RSM Latino grabs a drive-through penalty, I'm pretty sure that is going to be cleared for unless he's just come through the pits. He's
just come through the pits, so that's a pit lane speeding penalty. So that one I think is going to unfortunately be kept for car number 50.
And we also got Lewis Wedding come in the pit lane again.
Yeah, so he's. I think this is topping off. I mean, they've gone a long distance here as well, but this essentially was a free pit stop for them. They were in about 8th or 9th place anyway. So you can see, yeah, they've actually exited the lane. They've actually come back onto some clear track here. Now, I would imagine the ASR admin crew are going to be on the horn to some of these guys at the moment that are caught in the pit lane queue, just to make sure that everybody is in the right spot and that the race leader is the first car behind the safety car, which it looks like he is, and that is correct. So there he is. So there they are. So this is all. So this is a problem because Higginson and Freakish would have been able to get past the safety car. Freakish would have got a lap back, so he would have been 1 lap down instead of 2. And then Higginson would still be on the lead lap essentially, but that little incident has now meant that they are not allowed to overtake the safety car again.
Well, they have is the thing. They have been allowed to go through. The complicating thing for me is what's up with Urjit Mishra. So he's in 12th now, and it's on my screen at least showing that he has to slot in behind Peter Savage, who's another 5 cars down the train. So that's a very odd little thing for Mishra to contend with, because I'm not sure that he should have a wave around up to that position, but I don't think I'm just confused. I'm just really confused.
Yeah, I think Brendan Ross will be in there sort of sorting things out as well. I can see the race management channels just lighting up here with a few guys putting some stuff in. So, of course, the incident at turn 1 has definitely gone in for investigation.
Oh.
And Brendan Ross has actually just issued a remark saying just stay in position, and any of the penalties that are there are going to be cleared. So
Yeah.
that's going to sort that little element out. Also, probably should note as well that there was an incident lodged earlier in the race, the lap 2, turn 1. There was some contact between Brendan Ross and Brad Severs. That's gone in for a post-race investigation after the conclusion of today's activities. So we knew there was going to be a safety car, but we just didn't know when. And it's interesting because usually safety cars come at a little bit of an awkward time for different drivers, but most of the field had already completed the stop. So the guys that were on 4-stop strategies will get a little bit of an extra benefit from the fuel mileage. They'll be able to go an extra couple of laps. All the drivers that had decided they wanted to commit to the 3-stop strategy, this basically fell right for them after they'd completed their stops almost to a degree. So they're going to have not only a little bit more fuel mileage as well, but they're basically now assured they can actually run a little bit harder in this second stint if they want to, and still be able to stay on for a 3-stop.
Yeah, it's actually very lucky for those guys on the 3-stop that the safety car didn't come out immediately between the 4 and the 3-stop strategy, because it might have actually pulled those guys in a little earlier. So good for them that that's happened, as we've got a few more cars getting the wave around. I think that was Josh Andrew rather, that's gotten the wave by.
Yeah, correct. He's gone through, so he was 12th place, so he's definitely been given the wave around there. Ooh. Wave around. I said wave. They said wave around, not wave off the circuit. So he's got to go on the backside of turn 7. So he'll be allowed to catch up to the back of the train. And I'm just waiting to see if anybody else is being given the wave around. Maybe Urjit Mishra is being given one here, as well as a few drivers. I think that a lucky dog is always in effect, they call it. So it's usually the first car that's one lap down gets their lap back. I'm just waiting to see if anybody else is being given it.
It's all very complicated because Andrew was behind Mishra and Brad Severs on track. So, but he's been given the wave around. I'm not sure what's going on here. It's just AMS things, but we're about to go green, it looks like, as the field backs up. And the safety
just wait to see if the safety car is in. Yep, here we go. So safety car into pit lane, peels off. So Kurt Stenberg has got control of this field. As you can see here, there's a bunch of penalties being issued here, but they are going to be cleared by race control. So that'll just be good work for the ASR admin sorting that one out. And Stenberg jumps away, so there'll be a little bit of lap traffic for some overtaking here. You can see a few drivers have got headlights on to make sure that guys just get out the way, make sure that we're allowed to go past. We're back to green flag racing again at the start of lap 31. Stenberg jumps away very, very nicely at the moment. Urjit Mishra is tucked in behind Damon Woods, but of course is one lap down. And the next car that is in position in terms of the running order is Pete Savage. He's 2 cars back.
And it's complicated back down the field. Hans has managed to sneak his way through a few cars, but check out Phil Boak and Tim Redmond trying to wrap around the outside of Cheese. They go through turn 5. This is a battle for position between Redmond and Philip Boak as they come up towards turn 6. Redmond to the outside on this opening lap. Boak has to go a little narrow. It's going to compromise his exit. Remember, these guys are probably on some cooler tyres as well as they dive down towards Dandenong Road and make the braking for turn 9. Very complex situation there. They've all managed to sneak through without too much harm. And Hans Brunswick now is also trying to sneak through on Cam Rutledge and Darren Kemp.
Yeah, got it done. So Tim Redmond stays in 6th place. Boak stays in 5th. Hans Brunswick is in 4th. Actually, there's been a spinner. So oh, this is awkward too for Josh Andrew. He's actually down at turn 4. Now, he was given the wave around, and he's lost a fair bit of that advantage. He's going to have to really get on it now to make sure that he can catch up. Actually, he's been registered as 19th, so I'm not sure what's happening there, but he was he was given the wave around. Maybe he stopped, I'm not sure.
That doesn't make sense to me, although it's Automobilista, a lot of things don't make sense to me. There's actually a penalty showing on live races for Lewis Wedding, Urjit Mishra, RSM Latino, and Josh Andrews. So maybe they're things that need to be cleared by our live race steward, just to make sure that they're all squared away.
Yeah, I think Brendan Ross is actually looking at all of those right now, making sure that that's all being dealt with. He will be communicating those to the relevant drivers to make sure they all need to get cleared as it all goes. Kurt Stenberg already jumping away, second clear. So this is sort of about the gap that he had over Damon Woods before the pit stop sequence started. And now Pete Savage has managed to clear a bunch of cars overall. But have a look at this mid-pack. We're just looking at Tim Redmond, still tucked in here behind Phil Boak.
They both managed to pass. I think that's Cheese behind them. But now look, it's Cam Rutledge and Darren Kemp that they've got to manage to navigate through. Cam Rutledge almost closed the door there. That's really slowed him up on the exit. But Redmond also had a little bit of a compromised exit as well. So wasn't able to
Redmond's been held up too. So there was no opportunity there. It was a case of couldn't vanish. And there's another safety car now. So there's a second safety car called in quick succession. Looking to see where that one's come from because that's a little bit strange. Brenton O'Brien,
RSM Latino.
All right, at turn 1. So here we go. So on the replay one, we will have a look at this one. Ryko replay in store again. And the run down to turn 1. Here it is. It looks like... got tagged. Is that by Ben Hall? Oh, and then run into by Latino. Nowhere to go.
Ow, that's
a big hit.
That's a massive hit.
That's a big hit.
That's one of those that you're glad it's sim racing and not actual racing.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
So
And then we have the leaders in the pit lane again.
Yeah, so safety cars breed safety cars.
So Stenberg and Woods have both come in, yes.
Yep. So this now allows them actually a bit of a freedom here to go on to or to make it home from here potentially on at least 2 more stops. So they've got a free pit stop in their pocket.
Higginson in as well, RSM Latino in, and they are the only ones to take the bite at this stage. It's just a little too early for the minimum drive time. If you're a guy who's trying to get that drive time out of the way early, like maybe a Josh Andrew, you're just a little too early for that. It's 39 laps the minimum, and we're only on lap 34. So maybe at the end of the safety car, but then at that point you're done.
You're actually still going to be short.
You're
actually still going to be short because it's going to be probably about 3 or 4 laps under safety car. It's going to be just short of the minimum by the time they got to the green flag again.
And this time, Ujit Mishra has been given the wave around, so he's managed to get back on the lead lap. The first car off the lead lap is Brad Severs in the Peugeot Lure de Feu par PBF car. So that's unfortunate for them. So 12 cars on the lead lap. And then Brad Severs, Darren Kemp, Cam Rutledge, Cheese, Taipan, Josh Andrews, RSM Latino, and Freakish off the lead lap. So Hans Brunswick heads the field at the moment.
He does
and
indeed.
It looks like Brad Severs has been given the wave around as well.
Yeah, so I think they're trying to clear out some of the cars that are actually on caught in between a number of the lead lap runners. Because at the moment, the running order as it stands is Hans Brunswick from Phil Boak and a couple of other drops. Tim Redmond's actually just peeled off into the pit lane here, so he was in a net third. Actually, 3 or 4 cars going off into the pit lane there as well. So in the lane, you've got Tim Redmond, Lewis Wedding, and Brenton O'Brien. So again, a bit early for getting the minimum driver distances over and done with, but we'll see what happens here with those guys as we're just keeping an eye on the other side of the screen. Hans Brunswick nearly running into the back of the safety car. So the drivers need to be paying a little bit more attention than this, I think. They just need to make sure that they leave a couple of gaps between themselves. The safety car is doing about 80 kilometres an hour. And it does have a tendency to slow down a little bit through some parts of the circuit there. A few things have been reprofiled a bit with all the work that's gone into the Sandown track.
Actually, I was going to mention that this mod looks absolutely fantastic. That's a massive credit to everyone involved in making it.
Yeah, there was a base mod that was, or base Sandown that was done very back in the early days of ASR. Someone actually has already gone and made it for AMS, and we started using it. It did then went through a revamp in 2018 or late 2018, early 2019 by Lewis Wedding, and then the same base has gone again, but a lot of changes, a lot of improvements, mainly around things like the grass colour. The big thing was, you can see here at turn 6, that's what it actually looks like now in real life. The version of the track that had been around for so many years, actually that wasn't profiled at all. So this is actually the first sim that anybody's actually managed to get a copy of Sandown into with the reprofiled turn 6. I'd actually like to say we've actually beaten iRacing to it for once.
Hey! Well done, ASR. Well done.
So there's a lot of good work going on with stuff like that as well. So good credit to Lewis Wedding, Nathan Higginson, Brendan Ross to a degree has had some stuff involved in this as well. I had a little bit of involvement in it as well, just from tidying up a lot of the track cuts and the track violations and stuff as well. So it's a big team effort. Big team effort to make all that work. Actually, speaking of team effort, there's one member of the team I'd actually just give a shout out to. My wife, not only for putting up with me, but for bringing me my lunch.
Aww.
Lucky you, my fiance's still asleep.
Classic at what, like 1:30 p.m. on a or 2:30 p.m. on a Sunday afternoon. Perfect time for a nap.
Maybe time for a nap.
Not if you're watching the ASR Sandown 300 though, because we're just about to get back to racing action. At the moment, it is a safety car with Hans Brunswick leading Phil Boak, and is that John McDonald in third place, taking over from Ben Hall?
It is indeed John McDonald in third place as it stands right now. Big famous story, this one. Flood, you remember this story from last year. It was the feel-good story of the year. Coming from the back of the grid in the Bathurst 500, promising the shoey, and then we had to wait 2 months to get it.
We actually got it in the end?
We got it in the end.
Oh my gosh.
We got it in the end. It was the last bit on the end of season awards night dinner last year. We actually replayed it, ASR's most famous shoey. During the pit lane draw. So you don't tell me you've missed it twice.
I've missed it twice. Oh no.
You don't know what you're missing. You're going to have to go back and actually watch that.
Can I just say, what is wrong with you Australians? How is that even remotely appealing?
Well, it was started by an Australian, so it's now become, I guess, an Australian thing, hasn't it?
Unfortunately, some
would argue. So here we go. On board with Hans Brunswick, looking at the HSV Camaro ASR safety car as we come around the final couple of corners. I'd imagine they've been given the warning it's coming in this lap, and that is precisely what's going on. Safety car exits stage right into pit lane, and we get set to go again here. Again, a couple of penalties being issued. I'm sure they will be cleared by race control for drivers being out of position. But back to green flag running again on lap 37. Hans Brunswick will total up a couple more laps. He led a few laps when the race leaders came in the first sequence of stops, and he leads a couple of laps again. Good strong position for the Napa Auto Parts 44 AAR Mustang right now, with the other former race leaders a couple of spots further back.
Yeah, at the moment, Kurt Stenberg, Damon Woods are trapped behind John McDonald. They've already gotten onto his tail as they come through turn 4, but they've got a lot of traffic to contend with in the form of Taipan and Freakish immediately ahead. Stenberg immediately onto the rear of that Mustang, and he's going to try and force his way through, bully his way through on the run up to turn 6. They're swiping across the road here as they head into turn 6, and Woods is going to dive down the inside as well. They make a little bit of contact, and McDonald holds on.
How did he make that?
And a lock up for Woods as well. Tries to turn into an opportunistic passing move at 9, but didn't quite get it stopped in time, and Stenberg holds. That was extremely opportunistic from Damon Woods there to seize on the gap that Stenberg had created by getting past John McDonald. Lucky not to make contact with Stenberg as well down at 9.
It was all a bit chaotic there as they managed to work their way through traffic. Now Woods is right up the bumper of Kurt Stenberg, nuts to butts as Madbird would say, as they come into turn 1, while also passing Taipan. Stenberg is a little bit more narrow than Woods, and the overlap is on as they come into turns 2 and 3, but Woods will have to slot back in behind and does so. Also, just in the background there, Peter Savage has gotten past John McDonald as well, so that's McDonald from 3rd down to 6th in just over a lap after the restart.
Oh, take a breath. That was some frenetic opening or restart lap action. Is he going again? Oh, no, that was a lap car.
No, another lap car being done. Oh, Woods was very sideways going across the top of turn 6 as well, having just dispatched the Cam Rutledge and Turmo Mustang as well on the run through 6. But early going here, trying to make a break. So Stenberg trying to use the lap traffic to his advantage here. It's falling for him at the right times at the moment, so he's able just to gap Damon Woods just a little bit, and you can see there through the last couple of corners it's actually worked out quite well for him. A little bit of a slipstream advantage from the 420 Nissan.
Oh, sorry to interrupt, but check out the battle now for 8th and 7th. Nathan Higginson, Lewis Wedding drafting down the main straight, 3 wide. That's just behind John McDonald as well. As Wedding's to the inside, that's Freakish on the outside. Are they going to sneak through? maybe is the answer to that one. Tim Redmond's lurking just behind as well. Remember, he's on a charge still from the back of the grid. It's chaos in the mid-pack there as Josh Andrews almost gets turned around as well.
Yeah,
it's just absolute madness.
Bit of action going on here at the moment in the mid-pack. They've got us, and there's lap traffic mixed into here as well, so they've got to be very, very careful about how they manage this for the next couple laps, because we're now about to chalk over the minimum co-driver distance. So if you are in the car and you want to get out, there's a few drivers that started this race that could do so at the end of this lap, but we'll have to keep an eye and see what happens through the pit lane. So people that have cleared minimums: Hans Brunswick, Phil Boak, Kurt Stenberg, Damon Woods, Pete Savage, and then look a bit further down, Tim Redmond, Brenton O'Brien. They've now cleared their minimum as of this lap. So does any of them take the bait this time around, or are they going to stick to the strategy argument? No, they're all going around again.
And why wouldn't you in this absolute mad pack? It's great fun to see what's going on here at the minute as this battle pack continues. It's actually not just this group at the front. So this group is McDonald, Higginson, Wedding, Redmond. That's 6th to 9th. And then behind that as well, there's Ujit Mishra, Josh Andrew, Justin Cecil, Brad Severs, Brenton O'Brien, and that's another group of on track, all for position as well as they come down the back straight, fanning out once again.
Oh, there's so much going on. You don't know where to look. Here's the onboard from the Penrite Ryco racing car. Josh Andrew goes past the lap traffic of Freakish and Peter Thrower on the inside there. And there was a car wide down here. That was the Taipan Cecil Mustang going wide through the backside of turn 7. They are actually a lap down here as well, so they'll be getting blue flags right now as a Penrite car seizes to the inside of turn 11. Actually climbed up over the curb there. Wouldn't be surprised to see if they've got a track cut there. Taipan a little bit sideways off the final corner. But the next car that they've got in position is behind them is the Blackshaw's RSM car number 50, the blue car at the back of the train.
Oh, McDonald's run wide at turn 1 and it's opened the door for Higginson. Higginson goes straight through. Wedding's going to try and go through the inside of McDonald at 2. There's room there. McDonald leaves the door open. Wedding's going to go around the outside. Redmond's going to try and play into it as well. Redmond gets caught out behind, and McDonald almost spins on the exit of 4.
He got absolutely mugged there, did John McDonald. He was caught out in a really bad spot. Here's the view out the back of the LLM Mustang. You can see them menacingly. Here's Tim Redmond trying to look at an inside move. There's Ujit Mishra behind. He's in this battle as well as the last man inside the top 10. Look at the great shot as they come down through turn 7, 8, 9. Redmond. There goes Redmond.
He's just going to hold it out there. McDonald gets hung up on the curb, and that's going to allow Redmond through. Mishra's looking interested as well as they come to the last chicane on the circuit. Mishra's going to go around the outside, and he's going to get it done as well. So in one lap there, McDonald has gone from 6th place all the way down to 10th, and it was all because he was too narrow in the entry to turn 1. That was his only mistake that entire lap, and he's been absolutely mugged for it.
Absolutely mugged for it. He's going to try a repass, but there's also a pass happening at ahead here. So ASR admin on ASR admin, Higginson and Lewis Wedding going door handle to door handle through 1. This has started to become a little... Oh! Massive two-wheel moment for the 00 Motorsport car through turn 2. Hires Joe Cocker with 2 wheels in the air, and Wedding goes through.
That was a passing position, but it's almost the end of the race for Higo. That was incredible. We saw that last night in qualifying.
We did. This race has come alive since the second safety car. Everybody trying to get through the lap traffic. It's almost like a repeat of last night's sprint racing.
Hey, it feels a bit like that.
Flood, there's only 55 laps to go.
Only, exactly. Check out the battle for second. Kurt Stenberg has found the rear of Phil Boak's PBF Race Engineering car as they come towards turn 1, and Stenberg sides through on the inside to take second place. Those lap times have been clearly in Stenberg's favour to the tune of about a second a lap the last few laps around. So he's making moves through the field now, trying to get on the rear of Hans Brunswick, who enjoys a 4-second advantage at this stage at the head of the race.
Keeping in mind too that Stenberg and Damon Woods did come in at the second safety car there as well, so
yes.
They have got much fresher tyres. Different strategy, of course, for Phil Boak and Brenton Foley, and realising that pretty quickly that it wasn't there for them to take on that particular battle there. It's way too early to be fighting for position. So through they go.
Nathan Higginson as well has dropped another position to Tim Redmond, who's made his way through at turn 1. Now Higginson has mirrors full of the AAR Mustang of Ujit Mishra, and he's looking for a move through at turn 6. Not quite there this time around. Is the dive on at 9? Not yet. So Higginson is struggling a little bit after that little moment at the turn 2 and 3 chicane. And he's dropping a little bit down the order as the likes of Redmond and Wedding and Mishra are moving their way up. Mishra's been one of the big winners of the pair of safety cars. We were a little concerned after he got caught in the train the first time around, but now given that lap back, having that pit stop as well, he's now back in the top 10 for AAR, so that's going to be great for him. And Lime.
Late dive! Oh! Left his braking very late. Caught Higginson by surprise.
He was absolutely lucky that Higginson saw him coming there and stepped away. Otherwise, that would have been an airplane crash.
Absolutely, it would have been an airplane crash. Having a look at the live chat there, Higginson with a bit of a frown look on his face. Lime Mitch in the top corner there. Mitch McGovern absolutely loves it.
Well, he's about to step into this car in the next few laps, I imagine. So he's got any position Ujit Mishra can get now.
Yeah, this is actually a good result for these guys, having started 10th and now they find themselves in 8th. And right in the thick of it too, there'll be a couple of drivers that I think they'll be looking at now and thinking, you know what, we might actually be able to contend with some of these guys a little bit later on with who's going to step into the cars. So for the Mustang ahead of them that you can see there, the Lewis Wedding, Brendan Ross car. Brendan Ross got to step back into that car. And then you've got Lime Mitch will be stepping in to go toe-to-toe with him. He'll be going toe-to-toe with Brenton Foley as well. So might be another place or two before the end of this one. Closing in on the half distance mark as well. We're not too far away. I think it's lap 49 is roughly the half distance point. So it's gone pretty quick. Nearly an hour on the clock now. So these guys some of them will be starting to feel it an hour behind the seat. We're looking forward to getting out. They're going to be getting out probably in the next 5 or 6 laps. I'd be expecting to see some drivers coming in and permanent driver changes, and there'd be no more for some of those cars after that.
Yeah, most of the front runners now, especially those who pit under the safety car, will be looking to that 50-lap window because that'll all be done. So
they'll be looking beyond that, I'd imagine, too, Kiwi. So when you look at some of the, like, for example, Hans Brunswick out here in front got to lap 25, and with a bit of fuel saving now, he can probably go slightly beyond lap 50 if he feels confident enough. Kurt Stenberg behind came in on the second safety car and then
just behind Kurt,
extend, yeah.
Behind Kurt is Damon Woods making a move on Phil Boak into turn 1.
There you go. You can see it in the back of shot there. Job done for car 288.
And these guys, so while Hans was the last of the first stoppers at lap 25, the end of lap 25, Damon Woods and Kurt Stenberg pit under that safety car. So they're actually less into their stint as Hans is. So they're going to probably pit all around the same time. Now, it'll be interesting to see whether or not Stenberg and Woods can extend.
Oh! Stenberg tried to extend turn 7.
Yeah, trying to. Whether they can extend their stints further to try and get onto the 3-stop, well, the effective 3-stop strategy, get on sequence with Brunswick and Lachlan Knock. Someone do some quick maths for me. When is the latest anyone can pit to change drivers to ensure that the second driver gets in with their pit requirement?
With the minimum.
If there's been no driver change, you can do a maximum of 58 laps.
Yeah, there we are. So that's your limit. That's 10 laps away for the likes of Hans, for Stenberg, for Woods, for Boak as well, and for Pete Savage. That's their window now. So if they can get up to that lap 58 mark, that'll be almost ideal for them to get to the end on one further stop.
Yeah, they'll have to come in at the end of lap 58 in order for their co-driver to clear the minimum 39 laps. So I would imagine that they're probably not going to try and get that far. They might try at the next stint and get it over, because a number of these drivers, as we said, Kurt Stenberg, Hans Brunswick, they've already cleared their minimums. But of course, these two drivers on screen, they're off sequence to each other. So Hans Brunswick have come in at lap 25 and probably targeting lap 50. Kurt Stenberg now probably going to be a couple of laps afterwards, I'd imagine, having come in around the lap 30, so the early 30s mark on the second safety car when it was called for. And topped off and got new tyres. It kept going, and he's really harassing the back of car 44 right now. The margin has been eroded pretty significantly. He's been at least half a second to 0.6 of a second quicker every lap for the last 4 or 5 laps, and has really ranged up onto the back of this Mustang that we know and we can see is in a fuel conservation mode at the moment, given the lap times they're doing are in the mid-8s. Good, strong race pace for the 3-stop strategy still to work, and at the moment it's actually they're doing quite well. Just noticed the interesting little bit of dash painting that's been going on here with the Rosella and Stenberg, and the reference there to the Lord and Saviour Mark Scaife. There's a couple of things on the inside of this cockpit that a few people will be spotting and going, yeah, well done, boys.
Love to see it. Love to see all those little in jokes and references in the ASR community. It is a beautiful looking machine, a great tribute in those liveries, and it looks like as well it's soon going to try and grab the lead of the race at the hands of Stenberg. He's got a much better run this time around. He's right under the rear wing of that Mustang, and it's going to be very, very tight. Actually, Hans has got a great run himself out of that final corner, and might just hold on as they come towards turn 1. It's late braking maneuver, but it's not quite on for Stenberg this time around. So he's going to have to be patient here. He's going to have to just let sit in the wheel tracks for a little while and maybe see if he can make a spontaneous move towards the back end of the circuit.
And you know what? I think Kurt will probably be looking to get past this Mustang as quickly as he possibly can, because Woods behind them is now, as you said before, a couple of laps ago, dispatched to Phil Boak, came out ahead of the lap traffic that was exiting the pits in the car, the Nissan 420 car. He's actually a little bit quicker than these guys the last time around. He was a half a second quicker, so Kurt will be looking to dispatch Brunswick as quickly as he possibly can. And here we go, down here, favoured passing spot, turn 9. Very easy pass, job done. Hans doesn't make it easy for him though, tries to hang around the outside, but unfortunately for him, the move is done, and car number 2 resumes the lead of this race.
Very well done there by Kurt Stenberg. Just a quick note as we see that pass, we've had a few drivers come in and make that driver change. So Braxton Stancliffe now behind the wheel of the Ryko Penrite machine. So Josh Andrew has done his duty for the day. Well done, Josh, in jumping in at the last minute. And it looks like, I think Peter Thrower is back in the number 56 Kiwi Sim Sports car, and Taipan's back behind the wheel of the Taipan machine with Matt Cecil.
Yeah, here comes Peter Thrower actually out the pit exit, right alongside his fellow countryman in Braxton Stancliffe. He's, of course, a couple of laps down, so he's got to let a few of these guys go through. But this will be an interesting long stint for Braxton Stancliffe. It's essentially a double-double. He's going to have at least one more stop from here, probably 2. And he's got to go do the majority of the race distance here. We've probably got as close as they could to the maximum sort of half distance mark, which we're actually right now on the half distance for this race with an hour on the clock.
So I want to just return back to the conversation we're having about stint lengths and strategy at this point in the race, as we've got Stenberg and Brunswick just passing the pit entry once again, with Woods just behind. We're at a half distance point. Now, we made a mention that the maximum amount of laps you can do is 58 laps. So at the very least, we'll be seeing these front three in within the next 6 laps. I wanted to make the point here that running to the maximum you can at this stage of the race is probably the right decision, because it builds flexibility in later on the race. So the fact that you can get these longer stints out of the way earlier and get all your driving done for the likes of Stenberg and Brunswick, and leave your co-driver the maximum amount of flexibility to be able to go through any changes that happens later on in the race. If there's a safety car at, say, lap 69 or something like that, where there's going to be, let's do some quick maths here. No, that's probably a bit too far out. 79, 78, something like that, where there's going to be 20 laps left, or even 73, 74, where you might be able to stretch it out to the end. Having that flexibility built into your strategy is going to be paramount to being in the box seat come the end of the race. So all these guys, while yes, they might be optimally getting into the pits in the next lap or two, being able to stretch it out if they can might actually give them the right strategy call for the end of the race in another, maybe an hour's time, depending. And we've got Phil Boak in the pit lane as the first of that front group to really come into the pits. He was under pressure from Peter Savage.
Yep, so that's... I'd imagine there's a driver change about to happen here. So you can see that there's the John McDonald and Ben Hall car departing the lane, and John McDonald's actually stayed in that car. There was another driver change we were watching before with Steve Warwick taking over from RSM Latino, or Cuz, as affectionately known. So Cuz has completed his minimum stint. Here comes Cam Rutledge into the lane, and he's going to probably hand over to Turmo, I'd imagine. Cam started the car, so that'll be another one that has cleared the distance now, and Foley in. So there you go. And there's Rhodey and Brad Sever's car in the background. So again, that will be another driver that has cleared the minimum. And we're starting to tick them off here. We're starting to tick off all the drivers that have done their minimum stint lengths, and they're all starting to come in and make these changes. They're well and truly clear of it. That's the important thing. These guys have started well and truly clear. Yep, and here comes the former race leader in Brunswick. So that was out of position 2, which means Woods goes through to position 2, and expecting that this will be a driver change to Lockie Burke. As we see Turmo drives car 51 away in the front of shot. The next one we're going to look forward to see is if Benjamin Rhodey Rhodes takes over car number 45, which I suspect he will. Yes, he does. So that is confirmed and completed. And then the last one we're waiting for there is Hans Brunswick. So I expect, he's going to be heading over to Lockie Burke. See if the clutch pedal holds out. And yes, there is a change there as well. So drivers that are clearing minimum distances as the C7 Motorsport car comes into the pits as well. And that car's already had a driver change at least once today. Burko jumping out, Kemp jumping in. I'm wondering if Burko will actually get back in, or whether Kemp will actually do a double in the middle and hand over to Burko for the final stint.
That would be an interesting call. I think Burko was maybe a little too frantic at the start. Had 2 spins very early on the piece, so maybe keeping his powder dry for the end. Hopefully that doesn't prove to be a problem late on in the race.
Yeah, of course, the other thing as well, every lap now that you go on in this stint, it makes the last stint shorter. As it is now, you can split the next stint into 22 laps.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually.
So for every lap you go now, you get that little bit more flexibility. So people like, who pitted recently, John McDonald, Cam Rutledge, Rhodey, Lockie Burke, they've got 23, 24 lap stints to do now. Not as comfortable as somebody may have to do with 2 21 lap stints.
Yeah, that's actually a good point, Kiwi, when you think about that. Some of these guys that have come in, like, they've obviously cleared their driver minimums, but then they've got to work out how they split the next stints, because they've at least got 1 more stop. Some of the drivers are going to have to do 2 more from here. They haven't stopped yet, so the likes of Kurt Stenberg, Damon Woods have obviously got to do not only a stop now and a driver change, they're going to have to stop again later on in the piece. So people like Hans Brunswick and Lockie Burke, they've only got to do 1 more, and they've got to
Damon Woods in.
All right, here we go. So we're starting to get the big guns are starting to come through the lane. So there goes Urjit Mishra, and he's handed over to Lai Mitch. So that's a change there, and we're expecting this one for car 288 will be the next one in sequence. Pete Savage still continues to go, so he's doing a big stint here and a big job. 55 laps. I'm actually surprised he's actually done the bulk of the laps.
It's one of those things where the strategy option, because of the way that the safety cars played out, has meant that this is probably the better strategy for the likes of Savage, for the likes of Stenberg, for the likes of Damon Woods to go this long into the race. It'd be bloody hard work at the seat of these cars for that long, but it's probably the optimum strategy. And we've seen it before in the real life Sandown 500. Sometimes the correct strategy call is not to take the pit stop and to just keep going, stay out on track, even if that does mean giving the co-driver a longer stint behind the wheel. Ethan Ridgold back out on track in 6th place, ahead of Brenton O'Brien. Lockie Burke a little further back. So that's actually a big gain from Ethan Ridgold and the Evolution Racing team over the All-Australian Races Brunswick car, because the All-Australian Races were ahead of the Evolution Racing team before the pit sequence. So that's a big gain already, just in the pit stop.
Yeah, that's a massive gain. You're absolutely spot on there. He's come out in 6th place overall here, Ethan Ridgold. So ahead of him, there's all the cars ahead have still got to stop again. So the one that we're benchmarking them against is the Stenberg and Rosella car. They have got to do a change. They've got to get Luke Rosella into the car. So the gap you can see there, 55.6 seconds between the 2 cars. We'll be interested to see how that is coming down and how fast it is coming down. We'll get a read as they get across the line this time. I'm getting word it looks like there's about to be a driver change for car number 2.
Yeah, it has to be.
Yeah, so it looks like they're coming in. Yeah, and actually the margin is starting to be eroded here. So yeah, you can see here we go. Pit lights are on, and yeah, braking right. And this is a driver change for car number 2. So have a look at this on the picture-in-picture. You can see we've got there's Luke Rosella talking Kurt Stenberg through the thing. There's also another driver change going on there. That'll be Brenton O'Brien out and Dane Liccardo in. As these guys are actually in the same pit, pretty much nose to tail in the pit bays as well.
We've had Higginson hand over to Cox. Redmond is still sitting in the pit lane. He's dropping down the order. There might be a problem in that pit stop for Tim Redmond and Scott Stancliffe. Peter Savage is in the lane as well, as we've got Liccardo taking the Ben Hall car. Oh, that's not the right car, sorry. The other Evolution Racing car out of the lane. Tim Redmond's still sitting there. That's in the garage.
They've had an issue. There's been an issue with the driver change, and it looks like the Kiwi Sim Sports car is out of this one. So first retirement comes at lap 57, and yeah, that'll be a failure to take over the driving view of the car. I'd imagine there's a couple of things that sort of go on with that when it all happens. One, you have to be in cockpit view. 2, you had to have gone to track. 3, the Ethan Griggold car has now gone through to what is the effective race lead after a stellar couple of outlaps, but it's got a little bit of traffic here, but a bit slow on the inlap and a bit slow to react for Luke Rosella and Kurt Stenberg. It's cost them.
Oh, bit of action there at the wrong time for everyone. That's a real shame for Redmond and Scott Stancliffe. Remember, Stancliffe had an issue in both race to the grids yesterday in the 2 cars that he was managing and didn't start either of them. So there's must be something going on with his system and AMS and not agreeing with a driver change sort of setup, because that's just absolutely
heartbreaking. That's
yeah,
heartbreaking. On top of that, it's a worry too. I know that Scott had some recent PC issues as well, and actually had to miss a round of the Supercars Championship because the thing was getting rebuilt, and ended up. I think he's had a few dramas since then as well. It hasn't been a happy hunting ground, but they were actually doing the driver changes. They were executing them perfectly fine. So I'd imagine something has actually gone a little bit awry with what's happened there. We might have to get a little bit of a lowdown from Tim Redmond and guys in the live chat about what's actually happening there.
While we're talking about that, Lewis Wedding's still out in front. I think he has to come in this lap or else.
Yeah, he's got to be in this. They've got to be in this. No, because Brendan Ross started the car, so yes. there was these guys are okay in terms of driver minimums. There'll be I'd imagine the next pit stop that these guys do, that will be a permanent driver. Oh, actually, hang on.
Yeah, because it's been 25 laps.
Yeah, it's done 25 laps since the stop, so there's got to be at least 1 more driver change in here and 2 more stops. So this is stop number 2 for car number 5.
We'll see what happens here if you change drivers.
That'll be effective race lead going to Ethan Griggold when he comes around this time.
Yeah, because that will be 33 for Lewis Wedding at the moment. Haven't quite made the minimum. That's actually fallen quite awkwardly.
Yeah, the safety car has sort of had a little bit of an awkward one there. They were off sequence because of the safety car, the 2 safety cars in a very short space of time. And they'll now have to decide how they're going to slice and dice this one. Wedding's actually stayed in the car and they're travelling down the pit lane at the moment.
So how many laps did they do in that first stint? Brendan Ross did 24 laps, so that means he's got to do another, 13?
Yeah, he's got to do another 15 laps. So Wedding can essentially take this all the way up until, I reckon he's probably going to take this up until about lap 80.
Yeah.
And then hand it over to Brendan Ross for a 17-lap final stint, and then they'll clear the minimums quite comfortably.
Yeah, indeed. So let's take us through the field now as everything has shaken out at just on lap 59. It is Ethan Griggold taking over from Damon Woods in the Evolution Racing team, who leads the way. Just in the background, you can see Luke Rosella now at the wheel of the number 2 Parramatta Speedway racing car in 2nd place. 3rd place is Lachlan Burke, who's taken over from Hans Brunswick in the All-Australian Races number 44. Will Devonish now at the wheel of the number 10 car that he shares with Peter Savage, the Bogged Down Motorsport machine. Brenton Foley taking over from Phil Boak in the PBF Race Engineering number 074. Lewis Wedding slots out in 6th place, just ahead of Lion Mitch. So that is the All-Australian Races car that we saw in the wall at turn 6 on lap 5 or 6. So they've had a great recovery drive from Ujit Mishra and now Lion Mitch behind the wheel. Daniel Cox sits in 8th place in the HME Powerhouse design car that he shares with Nathan Higginson. John McDonald in the Locky Lock Motorsports car is in a battle with Dane Liccardo in the second Evolution Racing Team car into turn 6.
Liccardo's just gone through to take P9 down there at turn 6.
Exactly right. So that's your top 10. They finished off the top 10. In the background there, Braxton Sandcliffe, who's just gone across the runoff at turn 6, and that's just the second place man just behind him, who's gone through to put a lap on Braxton.
Braxton actually found the wall at turn 4 just before as well.
Oh, wow. So not all going to plan for Braxton at the moment in the Penrite Ryco Racing car, but he's still on track. Justin Cecil, Rhodey, NZ Snipes, Termo, Darren Kemp, Steve Warwick, Taipan, Peter Thrower are your runners, and of course Scott Stancliffe.
Oh, Thrower out of control, just cycling through the field. He was miles out of control. He had 2 wheels in the grass on the run to turn 1, and fell awkwardly as well because the leaders were coming through, and now he's had a spin right in front of his countryman as well. And now he's going to have to wait until all this traffic goes through. There goes Taipan, there goes the Locky Lock machine, there goes the Locky Burke one, and has managed to rejoin here. And Will Devonish arrives on the scene in a big hurry and gets going. So very lucky for Peter Thrower there.
Trying his hardest to throw it away, unfortunately.
I was hoping to God that the brake pedal hadn't snapped again.
Yeah, me too.
That would have been quite scary, especially with the leaders right in the mix as well. So lucky that everyone's managed to sneak through that relatively unscathed.
Yeah, isn't his fix just a bottle cap somewhere?
Oh, there was rumours that was what the fix was going to be, I think. I don't think it was actually the fix. I think he actually was talking to us last night. It was a grub screw that had sort of broken when he pulled the brake pedal back towards himself, and it sort of unseated the screw, and then a cylinder and a spring sort of unseated themselves, and then when he put his foot to the floor, it basically just jammed, and he had basically no brake. It was almost like there was something blocking the path, and what was blocking the path was actually part of the pedal that had become unseated. So they actually did fix that overnight. It was as we said, a bit of a rebuild on car 56 after that was all said and done. But the important thing is they are still running and still going to get some points, which is going to be good here. Getting some word through on some of the drivers in a live chat. Urjit Mishra confirming our suspicion that the safety cars helped them out enormously after going a lap down and then getting that lap back, putting Lime Mitch in a really good, strong position, up in position number 7, still attached to the back of the number 5 Has-Beens Mustang on lap number 62.
I've also got Brute, Peter Savage, in the live chat saying that they had damage from lap traffic, which has been causing their car a bit of problems, and also a possibly engine damage from a crash before the first safety car. So not ideal for them. They currently sit in 4th, he and Will Devonish. So Devonish has got maybe a little bit of work to do, or a bit of a handful of a car to manage as he comes across the line to start lap 63. Tim Redmond saying the driver change failed, and it's saying that he was sitting in the car in the pits with driver control while Scott was still was actually on the circuit. So there was.
I know what that means. Then it means there probably hasn't been a camera change to make that work, because part of the process is that you actually need to be in the cockpit view to drive. If you're saying still sitting on circuit, from what I read with that one is he actually hasn't been in the cockpit mode to be able to drive the car away. Because the car is locked, the driving view is locked to the cockpit.
Yeah, so unfortunate for Tim Redmond, and it was just one of those unfortunate AMS things, and he's heartbroken. He's quite despondent in the race chat, unfortunately.
It is a shame, and it's one of those little things as well that comes up every now and again. And we mentioned all the drivers, just be the one that actually turns and be the check and balance for each other. So have that checklist aside. Make sure you're checking it, you're talking to each other, checking each other off, making sure you've all ticked all those boxes coming up to the stop, because as we spoke about last night, it is a little bit of a process to go through and tick all those boxes to make it happen. So sadly, it's the only car out of the running at the moment, the Penrite bonneted number 718 Kiwi Sim Sports, going to be scoring no points as a result of this one. It was just a little late minute attempt there by Lime Mitch to get past Lewis Wedding into Dandenong Road and down to the final chicane, but he didn't quite make it stick. And there's a little bit of lap traffic now in the way for these guys. It's the same out in front. The lap traffic has closed the gap up a little bit with Luke Rosella being able to make a little bit of time back on Griggle, but now it's started to stretch out a little bit more as we get a new fastest lap of the race on cue for Ethan Griggle, 107.601. Of course, the race lap record was we were looking at yesterday. To see what that was. Now, we did see it come up as a 6.8. Now, we've actually gone and done the math and worked out that actually happens to be due on the first flying lap due to where the pit lane, the start-finish line is and where the grid starts. So we're going to have to go back and just double-check to verify that that is the case. As it stands right now, it's a new lap record of 107.0 for Ethan Griggle.
Nicely done from Ethan Griggle. He was the fastest man in qualifying. We were riding on the battle with Lime Mitch, but yeah, now we've got Evolution Racing Team, Ethan Griggle at the head of the race. Luke Rosella just behind him. It hasn't really let him go too far away. So while Grigle's put in a 7.6, Luke Rosella just behind has put in a 7.7. So they're trading blows at this stage of the race, and they're really trying they're stretching each other out here, and they're also stretching out a massive lead, almost to the tune of 10 seconds ahead of Lachlan Burke, who himself enjoys 5 seconds over fourth place man Will Devonish.
Well, that time by as well, Griggle, another 107.68. So he's absolutely on it. And Luke Rosella almost matching him, only half a tenth down. Is Luke Rosella just falling off the track slightly? No, that's much.
Just a touch wide, but nothing gained there. But yeah, these two are pretty much locked at the hip. Actually, it was a purple final sector for Luke Rosella on that last lap, and they were only down by a tenth, and they're almost matched each other. They matched each other to the 10th, not quite to the 100th through sector 1, and it's actually a slight gain to Rosella. So this back and forth is going to continue, I fear, between these guys for the next 31 laps they've got to do to finish the 300. What was the second sector times? There was actually a tenth of a second gain to Luke Rosella in the second sector as well. So a good drive, actually. Looked like there was some good drive off of turn 9 for car 2. The two of the heavyweights slugging it out in the, I wouldn't say we're past the 2/3 distance here. There's still a little while to go. But 7.9 for Luke Rosella that last time around. It was an 8 flat for Griggle. So locked at the hip. Nothing in it between these two. It's going to be a game of millimetres over the course of the next few laps, I think, just to see how they compare each other off coming to the pit stop sequence.
And speaking of that pit stop sequence, we are expecting cars in at around the lap. The earliest that they can pit, the critical lap to get to the end of the race, is going to be around lap 73, 74. So that'll leave you about 24 laps to get to the flag. If we see a safety car at around lap 70, though, that's going to put the cat amongst the pigeons to the max, because that's just outside the window of where you can comfortably make it home. So I'm not never looking for a safety car. I don't ever want to see the race interrupted. But if we do have a safety car still in this race somewhere, if we could get it in the next 3 or 4 laps. Oh, as Lewis Wedding runs wide at turn 4, and Mitch McGovern is on the inside, and they've made contact, and Mitch is in the wall.
They have. There's a bit of an issue down there at turn 4, so that was probably an attempted pass by Lion Mitch, but onto the Ryco Filters race replay for this one.
It was actually a mistake all by Lewis Wedding, all on his own. He just got high up on the curb at turn 4 and just skirted straight on. And then when Wedding actually made it around the corner, Lion Mitch was already trying to occupy that space. And there's the contact.
Made a mistake there, and Mitch sort of got a little bit excited by that one, I think, and probably tried to apply the gas pedal a little bit too aggressively, thinking, yeah, here's my opportunity, I've been waiting for one, and it didn't quite materialise. He's lost a fair bit of track time and track position as well there. He's lost at least a half a dozen car lengths to Lewis Wedding, so he's got a fair bit of work to do now to catch back up.
It was unfortunate because Lion Mitch did everything right. He was in the right position. He took the racing line. It was just a matter of where Lewis returned to the racing line was right where Mitch was trying to be. So I was actually riding on board with Blind Mitch as I saw it, and immediately my eyes lit up as it happened. So unfortunate for Mitch, lucky that he didn't end up with too much more damage, but that will be, you know, a steering arm or something. That's going to make that car a lot more difficult to manage over the last half of the race. And the fact that he's lost a second and a half to Lewis as well isn't going to be doing Lion Mitch any favors or calming him down at all.
Keeping an eye on Lockie Burke as well at the moment, because he's still sat up in position number 3. Will Devenish is doing his best to try and hunt him down here. It was actually a poor lap that time around for Lockie Burke. It was a 1.1 seconds in favour of Will Devenish, but they are both battling the traffic at the moment. And we know that Lockie Burke is trying to make this fuel strategy sort of work a little bit as well. A little bit of a late lunge on the lap traffic there, but it actually fell quite nicely for Burke. You can see Des Devenish in back a shot, just negotiating the lap traffic. This and Darren Kemp is currently down 16th place.
And just as a sidebar, sorry to interrupt now, that we've got some pit callers. We've got NZ Snipes in the lane and Braxton Stancliffe. This is too early to get home, I think.
Well, Braxton Stancliffe, that car was with Josh Andrew. They were always planning a 4-stop strategy, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, so there you go. So they're on their way out of pit lane. There's the NZ Snipes car in the back of shot. I'm wondering if they've actually got an issue trying to clear minimum laps here as well, because Cheese started that car, but I don't believe has cleared the minimum yet.
I thought he did 46.
Maybe I could be wrong. I'm trying to work that one out in my head, because I know that they started. I just can't remember when the swap actually happened there. So they will need to take a look at that. I'm actually just trying to work out who still is yet to clear minimums with regards to the field. So we know that Brendan Ross has got to jump back in at some point in car number 5, which is currently in 6th place on the road. Nathan Higginson's cleared his, so just running from the top down, the Greg Gould and Damon Woods car, that's already cleared driver minimums. They're good till the end. Rosella and Stenberg good to the end. So too Lachlan Burke, Hans Brunswick, Will Devenish, Pete Savage, they're good to the end. Foley and Bokar. The first one in queue is Wedding and Ross, which we just spoke about.
But Wedding has cleared his minimum.
Wedding
now,
has cleared it. Yeah, Wedding has cleared his minimum, but Brendan Ross has not. So that's the issue there. Lion Mitch and Wujit Mishra in 7th. They're good till the end of the race. Then you've got Daniel Cox and Nathan Higginson. So that with Higginson's cleared his minimums. Cox is now in the car. They're good till the end. So too Dane Liccardo and Brenton O'Brien. And the next one will be John McDonald and Ben Hall, because there was Hall started the car and John McDonald's jumped in for the middle stint. So Hall's got to clear minimums and he'll have to get back in. And then you've got Rhodey and Brad Severs. They're good till the end. Turmo and Cam Rutledge are good to the end. So too with Braxton Stancliffe and Josh Andrew. Lockie Lock and Justin Cecil. I think Justin Cecil's got to get back in that car. He did the middles, the second of the stints. Lockie Lock's jumped in. So they're doing a bit of an interesting move and keeping each other fresh.
Darren Kemp's just had a spin in the middle of turn 2 and 3. He's just stranded in the middle.
Oh, yeah, and there's been another car caught up in that as well, which is the RSM Blackshaw's entry too. So
yeah, so contact from Steve Warwick on the rear of Darren Kemp is what sent him around.
Yep, so here we go. So Ryko replay for this one here. They were battling away there, these two on different strategies. So Burko has to jump back into car 7, and Steve Warwick is good till the end here. And yeah, defensive line here, and yeah, just a little innocuous touch. That's all it was. They were both looking. Steve Warwick was just waiting for the gap to open, I think, on the inside there. That never really came. And these guys have done the right thing here. Have a look. This is how it's done. Wait for the traffic to go past and then jump back onto the line. And Steve Warwick's actually waiting for Darren Kemp to go back ahead. And there we go. Well done, boys. That's how you do it.
Yeah, that's the perfect redress.
That's the perfect redress for those guys. So they've done a really good job here.
It's actually lucky that there hasn't been any rain in the Birchwood Sandown, because where Steve Warwick was parked up, it's absolutely impossible to get a car moving up there.
He wouldn't have gotten out either.
No, not at all.
The other interesting point that we probably should bring up too is that I haven't seen any, well, very rarely have I seen people go down into the turn 9 gravel trap this round as well. So I'm a bit surprised at that, because it's not like Flood will know this. The Malala levels of gravel trap we had in the Super Series a couple of weeks ago was like quicksand. You couldn't get out of it. You can actually get out of this one, but I haven't seen anybody go in there yet.
Yet being the operative word.
Correct. Yet being the operative word.
Yeah, they've all managed to avoid it so far. I haven't seen too many big dive bombs there yet either, so I think everyone's getting all their angst out at turn 6 ahead of time. I just want to interrupt myself to look at the battle for the lead once again. Luke Rosella, purple middle sector on that lap, and then got held up by Termo coming onto the main straight, but that gap in front is now about half a second, yeah.
It's, Grig Gulp very close to the wall on the exit of 5 there as well. I reckon he probably gave it a little brush when he was on the run out there. That was a little bit closer than I think he would have liked to have been travelling to that wall. But this gap has eroded in the last 2 or 3 laps. It's come from being about a second now to less than that. Rosella's getting a nice little pull along here from the drafter car 288. It's all about the traffic, how they negotiate the traffic now.
Purple first sector for Luke Rosella as well. And as an aside, guys, lap 73, this is the critical lap. You can pit from here and get to the end of the race for most cars on fuel without any problems. So
Yeah,
this is we're going to see some action in the pit lane very shortly, I think.
Yeah, I think you've called that perfectly as well, because there's a couple of guys that are a couple of laps down. This car is one of them that was yet to clear minimums. Taipan and Matt Cecil. I think Matt Cecil has to jump back in this car and clear minimums, or maybe he doesn't. I'm not sure, because Taipan's gone out again. Yeah. And then Freakish has jumped back into the car that's ahead of them as well.
Rody's just gone for an excursion through the turn 3 grass, and he's just ahead of the leaders as well. So
it's awkward. This is awkward for Rody. He'll need to get out of the way in a big hurry here, I think. I don't think he can continue to run up the hill to he's trying to give them the racing line. This is the issue here. And a bit of flashing going on. Good communication for the drivers. He knows what's going on there. And through they go. But yeah, that sort of was a little bit awkward for Ethan Griggoult heading down towards turn 6. But they've somehow negotiated the lap traffic there.
And
very, very smartly done.
Just to update you, Nether, I think you're actually right. Matt Cecil's just said in the race chat that the race is stuff for our team. The game screwed us over. So maybe Cecil has to get back into that car and can't. So that's a big story for them in the which car is that one?
It's
that
in
we
car
just
23.
AP Sport.
Yeah, Sport car 23. So they're going to have to execute another driver swap at some point. I think Cecil did the opening stint. I can't recall when he came in, but Taipan's going to have to come around again. I remember Matt Cecil was talking to me a little bit earlier this afternoon before the race got underway. If he needed to exit the game and come back in, would he be able to actually do it? And I said, yes, you've actually got to come back in as a spectator and rejoin if you need to restart the machine. The temperatures in North Queensland are a little bit high today. So it's all about playing it safe, but I'm not sure how they've gone about trying to time that, but it could be another sting in the tail there. I mean, they are the second last car still in circulation, so worst case, they're only going to lose one more spot to Freakish and Peter Thrower, but they are pretty much locked at the hip at the moment out there on track.
Yeah, so Matty Cecil did come in lap 22.
Yeah, so
he's still got another 17 laps to go, and they need to get in at lap 80, right? So they're 3 laps down. So they need to get in at lap 80 for them on the clock and get
leader in. Griggoult is in the lane. So he's the first one to jump in. And in fact, Matt Cecil has gotten into that car now, so he's all fixed up.
Yep, that's been done. So they've been in the lane and they've sorted that out. So that was, I think, there's still a couple of cars yet to clear minimums. So the Darren Kemp, Steve Burko machine, Steve Burko definitely needs to get back in that car. And then I think Ben Hall is the only other one that needs to get in.
And Brendan Ross.
And here's this flurry of activity on pit lane you're referring to. So Lachlan Burke in for what will be his final stop. And this is a fuel and tyres. There goes Ethan Griggoult. He's actually going to come back out onto track behind the lap traffic of Steve Warwick here. Now, the next one I'm looking for is Foley's in as well, so he knows what the gig is here. What's up with Luke Rosella? Is he going to go a little bit longer? Has he got...
Lime Mitch goes in.
Yeah, so he's got a little bit of thing to go. There comes Lime Mitch. We're seeing him in the lane. What's happened to Griggoult? He's actually come out into some traffic here, so he's come out behind Lewis Wedding, who is still going.
Lewis Wedding will need to take a pit stop soon, though.
He does.
Because Ross needs to get into that car for at least 15 laps. So that's 6-7 laps away.
Yep. Now, this is the real $64,000 question here for Ethan Griggoult. He needs to either clear these guys quickly or hope that they come in. So Steve Warwick has just come out. He's going to have to clear him quickly. I don't know what he wants to do with Lewis Wedding, though. If Lewis is going to go a little bit longer, if he can go a little bit longer before handing over. But the gap, importantly, at the moment, It's 51.6 seconds. Just went up to 51.7. Rosella's actually at turn 5 behind Grig Gould at the moment. There he is. So he is essentially 3/4 of a lap in front, but we need to see how this plays out on the timing screen. So keep an eye on your monitor on the left-hand side to see how this works, because Grig Gould's got to make time here. He can't afford to be held up.
Tightly run stuff. And let's have a look at Rosella's lap times as well while this is happening. Last lap, a 7.8 versus Grig Gould with his in-lap.
The clock's going the wrong way. The clock's going the wrong way for Ethan Grig Gould at the moment. It's now to 52.1. Rosella's making good use of the clean air right now. And outlap for Grig Gould was a 121.2.
Another 7.7. Rosella's got plenty of clean air. He's got no one on track of him ahead of him.
He's upped his pace. He's upped his pace here, Kiwi.
And he's still got, he only came in on lap 56, so he can still run a couple more laps with his clear air as well.
Yeah, so where's the next bit of traffic in front of him? It's the Taipan and Cecil. Is it Termo or is it Taipan?
It's Termo in the number 51 CRE car. They're just going through turn 5 now.
Yeah,
so that's the next bit of traffic ahead of Luke Rosella. And then beyond that, it is no one. It is the entire back straight to themselves. So if he clears Termo without any difficulty, he's got the luxury of almost an entire track ahead of him.
And here we go, so Grig Gould again. Now this is Lewis Wedding holding him up. As this is for position as well, so Lewis isn't obliged to get out of the way here. He's actually going to try and make Grig Gould go the long way. And then there's more traffic that's just exited the lane. There goes the Burko and Kemp. Niston has just gone through. And there's another car ahead of it. Here goes Grig Gould to the inside of Lewis Wedding. Not quite far off and alongside. Wedding's going to hold on here. So this is music to the Parramatta Speedway number 2 car at the moment, that the former race leader is stuck and is struggling. Look, it's just cannot find a way past. He's looking at every conceivable opportunity here. This is falling beautifully for the current leaders. They're blazing on here. They're going to also come out not only with a track position advantage, they're going to come out with tyres that are at least 5 laps, if my calculations are right, newer than car 288.
8 flat last lap around for Rosella, plays a 7.8.
Here we go,
a little
pass
bit of time
done.
gained back.
Finally pass done, but a little bit deep. It took them a bit of time to get that done. If I was Rosella, I've got to be in now. You've got to be in now, this lap. Get it done. You've got the margin. You're starting to catch the Mustang of Termo and Cam Rutledge. Rather than risk trying to negotiate lap traffic, I'll be in right now.
And there is a nice little gap ahead of Grig Gould now. So if you get in, you come out in clear air as well. So that's going to be the optimum strategy. Let's see if they've cottoned on to us or if they're listening to us. Let's look at it. He comes in. Look at that.
There we go. Perfect call. That's the perfect call for me. He gained a full 2.5 seconds just by going the extra couple of laps longer while Grig Gould was stuck in traffic. That's beautiful communication between Kurt Stenberg and Luke Rosella to make that happen.
So now the interesting thing is, where are they going to come out in relation to Grig Gould and the traffic? So Grig Gould's on the back straight now. He's got Steve Burko, and I think that's the John McDonald Ben Hall car ahead of him. So Ben Hall's back in that car, so they've completed their requirements in terms of driver changes and driver laps.
They have.
So if he can get out in front of Ben Hall, that is going to be a perfect position for him to go on and try and win the race.
Car 2's on the move, guys. This is going to be a big lead for Car 2. They're going to come out with a nice healthy margin and fresh tyres to boot. There's a shorter fuel stop as well. They're going to have almost half a front straightaway of length. Look at this. Beautiful timing. There's car 288 in the background. They're going to have at least a half a dozen seconds on that car. Grig Gould now finally clears a couple of traffic, gets a fast lap of the race here there, 107.4. But they have got a mountain to climb now in the last 17 to 18 laps.
And look at how much room Rosella's got on track in relation. He's got plenty of room behind him with Ben Hall holding up Grig Gould. In fact, Hall takes the escape road through turn 3. So Grig Gould's now made that move. And then look at the gap ahead as well. Rosella's got the clear air ahead. It's NZ Snipes, who's just that Nissan up the road in the foreground of shots. So plenty of room for Rosella. They played this perfectly.
Yeah, perfectly executed strategy on
leaders in as well. Will Devonish in.
That's it. Yeah, perfectly executed strategy on Penrite pit lane as well for those guys. They've done a really good job, and that's great communication. Kurt Stenberg being the spotter for Luke Rosella when he's in the car, and vice versa, realising that it was on there and he was going to come out into traffic, and the decision to keep going. That's absolutely the right call. Will Devonish is going to probably slot in here around about P5 when everything gets shaken out here. As Gridcorp goes sailing on past, he'll go up to position number 2. Wedding's going to go up to P3, but Wedding actually needs to be in. Have they missed a trick here?
They need 13 laps for Brendan Ross. So
yeah, I think they maybe have they gone 1 lap too long here.
Ooh.
I'm trying to work this out. This is currently lap 81, so he needs to be in. He needs to be in this lap. He's got to be in this lap. There's no choice for that car. And yeah, they're coming. I think they're coming in. I thought for a worry because how many laps had Brendan Ross done? He'd done
24.
20. He'd done 24. Okay, there you go. So that's okay. So they're pretty much spot on the mark. So they'll get Lewis Wedding out, and Brendan Ross is only just going to clear the minimums by about a lap. So they'll be okay. That was that's the last one of the cars that needs to satisfy the minimum co-driving requirement, and they'll be in this lap.
So I just want to have another quick chat about Rosella and Kurt's strategy. Remember how I said earlier when we were about lap 50 or so, that the longer you run that middle stint, the later you can come in, the more flexibility that you have at the end of the race. That's what's happened here for Kurt and for Rosella. Because they ran those extra 2 or 3 laps longer in that middle stint, it meant that they could pick and choose the optimum lap to come in for that pit stop. And that's paid dividends now when they were able to get in, make use of the clear air before the pit stop, make use of the clear air after the pit stop, lengthen that middle stint, and come out with a 4-second advantage. That's cracking strategy work by the Boffins in Parramatta Speedway Racing. So well done.
They're done very well. There is the Lewis Wedding car, Kiwi, on pit lane. It is doing the last change. What on earth are they doing there? They're just turning the wheels left and right, get a bit of temperature in. Brendan Ross expected to jump into that car.
Yeah,
It's been stationary for a while. It'll be fuel now, and there we go. Driver change done. Last one done.
should come out probably in 6th place, just behind Brenton Foley, I would imagine.
Yes,
Remember, prior to the stops, they were
Foley's
in a very
gone.
heated
They've lost
battle.
that spot. They've lost that spot. There they go.
For that battle, they were in a battle with Lime Mitch. So that's Lime Mitch and the AAR car coming down the main straight now, and Mitch is going to grab them here. So it's going to be AAR just pipping the Has-Been racing car as they come back out onto tracks. That's a net gain for the All-Australian races, which, remember, was in the fence at turn 6 within the first 10 laps of the race.
Yeah, good job. Great job there by Lime Mitch and Ulrich Mishra to recover well after going a lap down early. And they've now gotten themselves into the top 6. So this will be a good result for AAR as well, because Lachlan Burke up in position number 4. He's actually, they've both been on the lane, and Will Devonish has been in as well. So Will Devonish has actually jumped Lachlan Burke for 3rd place. So that was brewing for a little while. We know that Devonish was trying to hone in on the back of Lachlan Burke. So there's probably been a scruffy lap somewhere for the second AAR Mustang.
He's actually in the pit lane.
There you go.
Peter Savage saying in the live chat that the strategy made us avoid and overtake 3rd without actually having to pass them. So they've done all the way in the lane.
Yeah, shorter stops. So basically that's exactly what Kurt Stenberg and Luke Rosella did. They bought the flexibility and only needed to put a little bit of fuel in, not a huge amount of fuel compared to everyone else stopping a bit earlier. So they've spent less time stationary in pit lane. Transit time, of course, is still the same, but they've spent less time stationary and they've made a net gain. So that's a really good, solid job for these guys who were one of the fancies in last year's Bathurst 500, and they came a crop up part way through the race, and this will be a good bounce back for these guys if they can hold it together for the later stages of the race. They'll end up on the podium. 3 holders currently in the top 3.
Boo.
And we were saying that based on yesterday's results as well, the top Mustang was the All-Australian Races machine of Lachlan Burke. Actually, no, in qualifying it was Lime Mitch who was the only Mustang in the top 5. So they're just sitting outside the top 5 now. Mitch and Mishra sitting in 6th place behind Brenton Foley and Phil Boak. Lachlan Burke sets his fastest lap of the race, a 108.1. And they are the only Mustang in the top 5 this time around, the other All-Australian Races car.
Yeah,
just a quick sidebar, we've got a bit more of an update into what happened to Scott Stancliffe. Apparently, he was in control after the driver's drop and had driven half a lap before it took them back to the garage. So maybe there was a problem with the game not recognizing that Redmond was stepping out of the car or something to that effect. So when he quit to the garage, it actually DNF'd the car. So unfortunate and a bit of a weird one for them. And yeah, so far the only retirement Hans also jumping into the chat saying that Berkey came out of the pits into traffic, so that's where they lost a bit of their time and a bit of their advantage, hence their drop into 4th place.
Yeah, you're not wrong there. I think there's a little bit of more of a story there for Scott Stancliffe, and I'd imagine I'm going to be helping them look through some logs and stuff later this week to try and understand and unravel what happened there, because I'll be very keen to figure out what's going on as well. Have a look at our driver track up. You can see who's in the car at the moment. So top across the screen, you got Lime Mitch in the car there. He's driving. Ben Rhodes is driving. So too Dane Liccardo. Stop looking at the screen, Dane. You're meant to be looking at steering wheel. Nathan Higginson's having a snack while he's trying to do strategy for his co-driver in Daniel Cox. Kurt Stenberg.
He actually just had a spin. Cox just had a spin at turn 6, so not ideal for Cox, but
No,
Higo doesn't look to mind too much.
No, doesn't look like that. Kurt Stenberg's missing in action. He's just said, I've done my job, Luke. You can go and do the rest. Luke Roselle's bottom left-hand corner. You got Lockie Burke, centre of on the right-hand side there. He's a picture of concentration. Steve Burko's behind the wheel, and Peter Thrower, he's still running the strategy cues there for Freakish or Jake McPherson at the moment.
I'm just keeping an eye on the timing screens here between the top two. A couple of laps ago, Ethan Grigault set the fastest lap of the race of 107.397. But last couple of laps, Luke Rosella's actually been quicker.
Yeah, correct. You're actually watching those times like I am on asrleague.liveraces.com here, Kiwi, and you know precisely what's going on there. They're pretty well matched through most of the sectors, and this is what we saw in the previous stint prior to the stop. They were pretty close together. It was only a case of 1 or 2 tenths each time around.
Very consistent driving, and with 14 laps to go, that margin between the two needs to come down at a good clip, and what's about a good 3/10 a second a lap to have a chance of a pass. And at the moment, Ethan Grigault's just not doing that.
No, you can't find anything anywhere, and if we cycle up to have a look at our race leader, you can see Luke Rosella is actually starting to encounter a little bit of the traffic now.
Yeah.
So this will be, if anything's going to happen in the closing 11 laps for car 288, it'll be right now where the traffic comes into place. We've got Lewis Wedding, we've got the Higginson Cox car as well. Oh, it's Brendan Ross is there, so actually that's good driving from Daniel Cox just to get out of the way there on the inside of turn 2. Good clear track for Luke Rosella. And Brendan Ross will probably give the first car in the queue a nice run up the back straight here, but I don't know whether you'll actually get close enough to make that pass.
Not this time around, no. This is the complicating thing now, because Rosella has run all of this stint so far without any traffic. Remember, he came out very nicely positioned with that clear air around him. It's going to get very, very compressed very quickly. There's about 6 cars in the final sector at the moment ahead of Luke Rosella, who's got the lights on, and Rossi lets him go. And that's Matt Cecil, who's just pinged across the gravel trap in the near of shot. That's okay.
He's just had a little moment there. I was just keeping an eye on that one, and he's had a little moment skating across the grass there. He actually just grabbed the grass on the way through towards turn 11, and you might have jumped sideways on him.
You might have heard me chuckle in the background. I was just looking at the last lap times for Rosella and Grigault. Rosella last lap around a 7.505, for Grigault a 7.525. So very, very closely matched. But with the traffic this lap around already, last lap for Rosella an 8 flat versus a 7.5. So that's going to be where Grigault's going to have to try and find the time as the leaders start to process this traffic.
Yeah, so the first man in the queue is always the one that sort of wakes them up here, Kiwi. So this is the interesting bit of the equation. You can see the onboard here from Ethan Grigault as heading down towards turn 6, 7 and 8. You can see Rosella a bit further along. He's waking up all these guys to remind them, hey, the leaders are coming through. But then they've got to start paying attention in their rearview mirrors, because the rest of the cars are all coming at a very fast clip.
That they are indeed. And I think what helped Luke Rosella before is he caught some of the traffic out of turn 4, which is relatively easy, as opposed to here, right out of the final corner. That's an awkward spot to catch traffic.
Definitely.
Makes the best of it, though.
Yeah, good pass though, and good situational awareness by Matt Cecil, to stay to the right there and let Ethan Grigault sweep through.
And that cost him a good 3/10 in that final sector. So that's not what you want when you head down, bum up to try and get the leader.
No, not only that, the lap traffic is starting to play a factor as well in this. You can see Luke Rosella is now, having dispatched Brendan Ross, he's now got Rhodey to get past here, and then a bit further up the Lime Mitch and Ujit Mishra Mustang, which is currently the last car on the lead lap as it stands right now, and then Brent Foley's a couple of seconds up the road. So there's actually a couple of battles for position still going on in the back half of this race, despite the fact that the field appears to be quite strung out. You've got, it was Lime Mitch who was just trying to hold off Brendan Ross for a little bit. He's now trying to catch up to the back of Brent Foley, so there might actually be a last change or a late change for the 5th position on the final standings as it sits right now. But there you go, there's Lime Mitch just in front of Shot. And
what's the gap at the moment between them? It's just under 4 seconds, and so the last few laps, Lime Mitch has been putting in 8 threes or thereabouts versus Brenton Foley in the 8 and 9s. So there is a possibility that within maybe 5 or 6 laps, that gap could be almost naught, which would mean that Ross, or Foley rather, has 3 or 4 laps that he's got to hold on to try and hold on to that 5th position.
Like us, Brenton Foley is quite a regular at Sandown throughout the years. Every time the Supercars is there, he's got a ticket to boot in the grandstand, so he knows the place very, very well. Seen plenty of Supercars action here over the years, so I think if they can hang on for 5th place here, this will be a big tick, not only for Foley, because he's had a little bit of a rough year in terms of ASR Supercars, but this will be a bit of a reward because he hasn't had a podium all year long, and it'll be a big feather in the cap of Phil Boak, who hasn't done any driving for the better part of the last 9 months. So the good mates getting a podium, a 5th place finish, I think they will take that every day of the week.
Lime Mitch just navigates Peter Thrower, who exits the pit lane through turn 1. Just gets that squared away. He actually picked up a track cut in the last sector for Lime Mitch, so no representative lap time, but another 8.5 for Foley. That gap now is 3.7 seconds, so it's under the 4-second marker, unlike the battle for the lead, which is now stretched out to back over 4 seconds. So this is actually the closest battle on track for position of the front runners, I think.
Bit further down the order, there's actually a really nice battle brewing as well. So Braxton Stancliffe has got his hands full of Turmo at the moment.
And Lockie Lock just behind them as well.
Yeah, so all for position as well. Now this is not for in the top 10. The next guy up the road, NZ Snipes, to the fellow countryman, to Braxton Stancliffe, has actually got a nice clear bit of track there. He goes with background to Shot. So they won't catch up to the back of him, nor will they probably catch up to the back of Ben Hall. Actually, Ben Hall, I'm surprised. Actually, this is a really good drive from these guys. They're going to be well and truly inside the top 10. He just needs to bring this car home here. Again, 2 drivers that are very well matched to each other. You're getting a little bit better each and every week. And these guys have done an awesome job today. They've stayed out of trouble. They are a couple of laps down, but they've done a very, very good job. There it is, the Lockie Lock Motorsports Ford Mustang of Ben Hall and John McDonald. So I think John McDonald's found a really good partner for the Enduro Cup this time around. There's a bit of high expectations from last year's Bathurst 500 podium finish to find someone that he could race with, that he was comfortable with, and he's hit upon a winner here. Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah, that was a pretty great result. Him and Steve Burko coming from the absolute heavens to inherit third place.
Zach Ross, yeah, Zach Ross.
Because it was Burko and Hans in second place then? Was that?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, there we go. That's all right. I remember Burko being very, very emotional in the post-race interview, very surprised at his result.
Yeah, he was indeed. I mean, they were a little bit dirty earlier on in the day too, because they were actually stung before the red flag, they were stung for running into McDonald and Zach Ross. It was a judge that they were at fault for that one, so they unfortunately had to do a drive-through. But with the red flag, it sort of all amounted to moot because it reset the field. All right.
Just an update on that battle for for 5th place. Foley has responded to Lime Mitch. He's actually just gone a lap down for the first time today. Because of being passed by the leader, Lime Mitch has actually dropped a little bit of pace, and that's just stretching it out. We are 5 laps away from the end. Where did all that time go?
Yeah, it has gone very, very quickly, hasn't it, Kiwi? The battles are starting to wind down, but it's a good margin out front.
It's a good margin, but it doesn't take much to give half of that back again. It's been a great race from Luke Rosella so far, though. Kurt Stenberg said in chat, he told Luke to have a real go. He's been doing that, and just solid lap after solid lap.
two guys as well that are top two in the points championship, in the Supercars championship, which of course is on hiatus at the moment because of the Enduro Cup. It comes back into play again in November when we go to Pukekohe Park Raceway for the 9th and penultimate round of the championship, and then concluding at Townsville later on that month, early and also early into December. So Super 2 have also got a race at Pukekohe and Townsville. A number of these guys race in those series. Some of them actually do both, so they've got a lot of seat time. The top two guys in the championship in car number 2. And off they go. I don't know why they picked car number 2 actually, because of course the HR Holden liveried cars over the years have spawned car, car number 2, car number 1. Mark Scaife, of course, was usually car 2 when he was champion. He was car number 1. These guys, of course. Make the shrine to they call the Lord and Saviour Mark Scaife is what they refer to him as nowadays.
Right out sideways.
That's it. And all the other Scaifisms that go along with it.
Now, they've done a pretty impeccable job so far. Both Kurt and Luke have dominated this race from the outset. A great strategy play in the middle as well to just extend that middle stint and give Luke the flexibility that he needed to make the right decision at the back end of the race. And they're holding a comfortable advantage, 4.4 seconds last lap around. Arrow hasn't really moved since the last round of stops. So Rosella has absolutely had the foot in the right spot, and he's looking to take victory in this the Sandown 300.
300. Be careful. 300.
Man, if we did a Sandown 500, that would be.
We can do that. We might have to do it in R Factor 2 or something if we ever move to that platform. Kiwi, going back to the battle on track here on screen now, Braxton Stancliffe doing a mighty defensive job to hold off a vastly more experienced Turmo at the moment. Lockie Lock really can't go anywhere. This is the really true last battle for any sort of position at the moment.
It is, and I've been keeping an eye on it for the last couple of laps. It's just been, they've all just been doing consistent lap times. There's been no mistakes that I've seen from the three of them. They're just really, it's really hard to see how you can get past when you're as fast as the guy ahead of you and neither of you are making mistakes.
Check out the guys in the background though. Look who's that in the background. That's the leader.
That's the leader in Luke Rosella, who's just about to try and put a lap on Brent Foley as Foley locks up and goes wide. So it means he's going to finish one lap down. So at the moment, top 4, the only cars to finish on this lead lap. Very common in or even in Sandown 500, it's very common to see several cars go a lap down and only maybe like half a dozen cars finish on the lead lap. Safety cars all came out sort of bunched together though, so it really sort of didn't have a major impact on things. It gave some people a free kick, reinvigorated the race a little bit when we went back to green flag after the safety car went in, but we haven't seen it.
I think we have a car on.
We've got
the wall on fire.
Yeah, we've got a car out here, so it looks like the Ben Hall Mustang might have come a cropper, is it?
Yeah, they're stuck in the gravel trap at the end of turn 9.
Yeah, there it is, and that's in a bit of trouble here. So that's a localised yellow flag late in this race. Can they get the car out, or is the car in a bit of spot of bother? No, that car is actually the engine's gone.
Yeah,
so that's we actually haven't got it. Happened that long ago. We actually haven't got the replay for it. So that is unfortunately over and out for for John McDonald and Ben Hall. White flag has been taken by the race leader.
Oh, that's such a shame for the pair of them. They were just John McDonald was just talking in chat how impressive their race was and how Ben hadn't put a foot wrong all day, and it's just a blown engine at the fastest part of the circuit that's seen their race end in the gravel trap. That's terrible. And Johnny, he's already, McDonald's in the chat yelling commentators curse at us. Oh no.
That actually puts NZ Snipes actually into the top 10. So these guys are the first car they're one of the cars that is 2 laps down, so puts Cox and Higginson are going to be 9th. These guys are going to be 10th. But only a couple of corners to go here for car 2 in the traffic. This is the worrying part of things here as well. A couple of guys still battling for position. So Stancliffe and Turmo are going to get going on, but the checker flags will be in the air here, and it's going to be for car number 2 takes the race win. Luke Rosella and Kurt Stenberg take 250 magnificent championship points, and they take maximum points away for the race weekend. That is a perfect weekend for the boys on opposite sides of the country, opposite parts of the country. Luke Rosella in South Australia, Kurt Stenberg in Western Australia. the Grid Gould and Damon Woods car home in position number 2. And Will Devonish is going to bring the Bogdown Motorsports Commodore home for 3rd overall. So there's your podium sitters. They're going to have to go out the back and have a little bit of a chat with us in a few moments' time.
Well, I think Rosella might have even run out of fuel because he's not getting anywhere fast.
Actually, where is he? Is he stopping down to do a burnout or something? I'm not sure.
Maybe.
He's waiting there. Is he out of fuel? Maybe did they get the fuel cap just right?
Just
or
right.
Not? I'm not sure. Anyway.
Lockie Burke and Hans Brunswick in the All-Australian Races Mustang finish in 4th place, and then it was the cars a lap down. Brenton Foley and Phil Boak in 5th, just ahead of Liam Mitch and Ujit Mishra. A great result for them after their early troubles. Brennan Ross and Lewis Wedding team has been finished the race in 7th. Dane Liccardo and his partner, whose name I always forget.
Brenton O'Brien.
Brenton O'Brien, there we go. They finished in 8th place, the Evolution Racing team. 9th place was Daniel Cox and Nathan Higginson. Great result for them. And NZ Snipes and Cheese finishing in the top 10. Braxton Sandcliffe and Josh Andrews in 11th. Well done to them on the late call-up for Josh. Termo and Cam Rutledge finishing in 12th. Lockie Lock, unfortunate to finish down the order. They had a great start. Him and Justin Cecil finishing 13th. Steve Burko and that is Darren Kemp, thank you, in 14th. Rhodey and Brad Severs in 15th. Steve Warwick, RSM Latino, 16th. Matt Cecil and Taipan after their driver change problems down in 17th. Ben Hall is shown as finishing 18th, but actually did not finish the race. Unfortunate for him and John McDonald and Peter Thrower. And that is Freakish in 19th, the last of the classified finishes.
There is a push job going on here at the moment. So Luke Rosella actually has been pushed around by by Lockie Burke there as he heads down the back into Penrite, Podium and Victory Lane. So here they all come. So I think, is he going to be able to make it? That's the next question. There's a few guys are coming out here to actually have a little bit of a look at the podium celebration. So on their way. The others are already waiting for them. There's actually burnouts galore going on down here at the moment, so we'll get that over and done with. And there we go. So there is your top 3. How about that? What a great looking podium that is for Penrite podium positions. And car number 1, or position number 1 goes to Luke Rosella and Kurt Stenberg. And then you end up with car number, or the second place car there on the right of screen, belongs to the Evolution Racing Team Commodore of Ethan Griggold and Damon Woods. And then third place belongs to Will Devonish and Peter Savage. Well done to all the guys there. That's actually a really good race from all 3 of them.
It was a very great race. And in fact, it was a great race from the whole field. Really enjoyable to watch that.
Absolutely.
Of course, this is the first Supercars event you've commentated on for ASR, isn't it, Kiwi?
It's actually the first endurance race I've commentated for ASR, so I survived it.
Well done.
You've actually done pretty well. I mean, I know you guys are used to talking about all manner of things with regards to endurance racing and stuff. And as I said last night, it's a privilege to have the guys that have done so much to do with endurance racing, not just for ASR, but that know about endurance racing in general. Come along and talk about the endurance discipline because it's something completely different that you guys have not done before.
Yeah, but when we talk about it in our podcast, we make light of the fact we don't know what we're talking about.
Oh, that's true.
That's it. Well,
no, it's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure, Nether, and thank you for having us on board to call this fantastic race.
Absolutely. Well, we're starting to get the drivers to make their way to see us. I think we're at the moment we are a driver short, so we'll wait to see how all that goes. But it's time for Penrite podium positions here in the ASR paddock at Sandown, and a beautiful podium position area there put together by Penrite Ryco Filters and the ASR crew. And let's start with the men who not only topped the standings today, but they topped the standings yesterday. They've had the perfect Sandown 300 weekend, and we'll go down and have a chat to Kurt Stenberg and Luke Rosella. We might actually start with Kurt for this one. Kurt started from pole position, good stint, handed the car over in good shape to Luke Rosella. It wasn't easy though at the end. You were tailed all the way by the Ethan Griggold and Damon Woods pair throughout the whole entire race.
Yeah, that we were. Yeah, I knew my job at the start there was to try and get us off to a good start, get a bigger gap as we could from Damon, and try and hold the lead as long as possible. And yeah, some interesting things with the way the safety cars come out, and then ended up doing basically the maximum stint of a co-driver and doing more laps in the race. But I was very happy with how I was in the car and very comfortable. And looks like Luke was the slightly faster driver of us both, but he did very well there at the end, and we played the strategy perfect to put us with a gap there, so that wasn't too much pressure on us towards the end.
Yeah, absolutely. That was the key moment of the race for me is when Ethan came into the pits to take his final stop. You guys were obviously had the communication going, and you were able to work out that he was going to come out into some traffic, and you upped your pace. You're able to put the hammer down and build that gap, and effectively make the overcut work. And it was the call of the race for mine. And Luke, I think you were at the wheel at the time, and it was, as I said, the perfect strategy to execute. You absolutely called it to perfection.
Yeah, it was a no-brainer really to do the undercut. I was quite surprised that the ERT boys sort of went to sort of a little bit different strategy. But last stint was it was pretty tough. Ethan was applying the scoreboard pressure. Tried my best not to look at the gaps, to be honest. Just concentrate on hitting my marks, and we got there in the end. Perfect weekend. It's been a great effort from Kurt did an amazing job, not only today but also in the sprint race yesterday. The car's just been mega ever since we rolled it out of the truck. It's been a pleasure. I can't wait to continue this form into, I think, Gold Coast is the next round.
Yep, correct. Gold Coast in 3 weeks, so a little bit of a wait. Not going straight into it just yet. There's still a few things to go there, but you're right. You take away maximum points from this one, and you took away maximum points from last night, so you can't get any better. So well done, guys. We'll see you in a couple of weeks for the Gold Coast.
Thanks, Never.
Thanks, Never.
All right, Flood, who have you got over there? I think you've got the second place getters in Damon Woods and Ethan Griggle.
I do, in fact, have Damon Woods and Ethan Rigol. We'll start with Damon, who started off the car. Damon, great start from you to jump up a few positions in that opening stint, and it was a close run thing between yourself and Kurt Stenberg. Just take us through your stint, your pair of stints, and also the mess around the safety car and your decisions there.
The start was better than I expected. I was hoping that I'd get both Hans and I think it was Peter early on, but I got walked a little bit. I tried to stay with Stenny. I think it stalemated at like 1.2 seconds for like 16 laps straight or something like that, and then Kurt ended up pulling away from me. But no, we stopped. We ran the tank out, and then we tried to extend the stint as long as possible with the second one. But then the safety car came out, and I played into our hands. It means we could extend my driver time as much as possible, and meant that we could get home without having to fuel save at all. But no, the pace wasn't as strong as I'd hoped. But no, we did a good job, and I think it was good that we gained spots. And yeah, it was not too bad.
Not too bad. It's a second place, and you take home. I think between yourself and Ethan, take home the fastest lap of the race. Ethan, we'll ask you the beginning of the last stint, having to navigate yourself through traffic with particularly, I think it was Lewis Wedding. How frustrating is that when you know that you've got to be putting in the hard laps and you're getting stuck behind someone like that?
Yeah, we came in a bit early to get Damon out of the car and try and undercut on fuel a bit so I could just put the quick laps in. But unfortunately, as you said, probably caught traffic, bad luck in that stint, and it allowed Luke to catch up during that one, and it sort of stalemated there a little bit. And then we had to come in early because we were running out of fuel for the last stop, and then the traffic was just horrendous, and pretty much for those 2 laps there, I knew that we'd given up the lead straight away, unfortunately. But not too bad of a first race that's pretty much my first race in Automobilista, so learning a new car, it drives quite well. And the car was very fast over the first few laps, but it probably ate into its tyres a bit much, and that plus having probably about 9 litres of fuel coming across the line at the end did not help. But it was definitely a lot of fun, so we'll be back for more.
Absolutely, and you guys grabbed the fastest lap of the race. I think it was yourself, Ethan, in that last stint. And looking towards the Gold Coast now, the next round of our Enduro Cup, you feeling confident? You're feeling settled? Feeling likely to challenge for an overall victory there?
Yeah, to be honest, I'm not 100% sure if I'm doing the Gold Coast yet. We've got some other commitments in E-Series and all that sort of thing and some of my real life stuff. So I think we're aiming for Bathurst, but not sure on Gold Coast yet.
Fair enough. How about you, Damon? Any thoughts on the rest of the Enduro Cup? Do you reckon you can grab a race victory in one of the future rounds?
That's always the goal, Fluddy. No, I think our pace is strong on one lap for sure. We had the car set up dialed in early on, but like Ethan said, we struggled once the tires started to age a bit. It kind of fell away from us. We could keep consistent, but it wasn't consistent enough to eat into the gap of Luke and Stenny.
Fair enough. Hopefully you guys get that worked out for your next race event. But congratulations anyway on second place in today's Sandown 300. Damon Woods, Ethan Griggold.
Cheers, Fluddy.
Cheers, boys.
And we'll hand it over to Kiwi, who's got our third place getters, the Bogdown Motorsports pair.
That I do indeed. Peter Savageville Devonish, third place. Peter, we'll start with you. 56 laps in the opening stint. Talk us through it because it looked like you had to do a fair bit of work.
Yeah, I was hoping I didn't have to do that many laps, but it turned out not bad. Me and Will had very similar pace today. Yeah, it was a little bit up and down. I found a lot of the lap traffic the first time through was a bit hard to get through, but I feel like once they started getting a bit used to it, because it was a few of the newer guys, they were realizing and they were getting out of the way, which made it a lot easier. But yeah, like we had a little bit of contact just before one of the first safety cars, and yeah, the car just did not feel right after that, and I'm pretty sure we're both really happy that we were able to get to the end because we were a bit worried that that might give us engine damage.
So that'd be why you came in. So if it wasn't for that damage, would you have still come in on that safety car?
I probably would have just stayed out. I do feel like the strategy to come in was better for the guys that were able to pass cars a lot easier. But for me, I'm struggling to pass people currently. It would have been much better for me to stay out.
Okay, so in the end, 56 laps, good effort from you. Then you pass over to Will. Will, from what it looked like, you had an easy job. Just drive around, don't cause contact.
Yeah, just to keep it straight. But as Pete said, we had a bit of damage. The car wasn't feeling quite right with fresh tyres, but as the stint went on, it did recover quite a bit. I was talking to the pit crew just before, and that little shunt that Pete mentioned knocked the radiator around a bit. Then they had to fix that in the pit stop that he went in. Fortunately enough, we had quality Penrite oil in the car, so nothing happened to the engine, so pretty happy there.
Excellent. And as we talked about, Flood talked about before, Gold Coast coming up, notorious for being a bit of a car breaker. How you feeling about the Gold Coast?
Pretty keen on it. Pete is absolutely a bullet around there. I'll try to match his pace, so I'm hoping we can be a few steps up the podium next time around.
Excellent. Well, still a third place from Sandown, so great effort, guys. And we'll pass back to Nether in the box.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you to Kiwi and to Flood for all their work that they've done across this weekend. That's your Penrite podium. So you saw there a great victory for Kurt Stenberg and Luke Rosella. Maximum points from this one. Damon Woods and Ethan Griggold in second. And third place going to Will Devonish and Pete Savage. Guys, funny enough, the top three starters from the grid about 2 and 3 hours or so ago, the top three finishers.
Funny how that happens.
Funny how that happens, doesn't it? Doesn't it, Flood?
Yeah, well, it was a great race. They all played their part and all made it into a bit of a phenomenon. Of course, all Australian races, Hans Brunswick and Lachlan Burke, not too far away as well. But I think my man of the match has to go to Ujit Mishra and Lai Mitch after applying the pressure to the PBF racing team early on the race and then having that big crash at turn 6. the way that they applied their trade and came back through the field to finish sixth, only just a lap down. That's a pretty big result. I think Lime Mitch and Ujit Mishra can be very happy about that, especially after Mishra's Enduro Cup problems last year, where he had a total of 6 laps across, 1,500 kilometers of Bathurst action across 2 separate leagues.
Can we get? I think he's well and truly put those demons to rest. Let's put it that way.
And it's great. It's great.
It's great.
So I'm very happy for him.
Yeah, I'm actually great to see that as well. I actually want to also give a big thanks to all the other guys that are actually watching along in the have been part of the team's meeting as well. Actually bring them up on screen. There we go. They can all have a little bit of a wave, and even I'm down here on the bottom of the camera. So hello, everybody. You can see there's the ASR commentary box. It's well, still a little bit, as we're sort of slowly starting to shut some things down over here at the minute, but good to see everybody that's actually there on the teams meetings been having a good time, and I think there's actually a few fun things we can do here. So if we grab a mouse, there's actually a thing I'd seen called Together Mode. So let's actually put this one on right now. It actually looks a bit weird. So this is a new one. It looks like we're all sitting in the stands. So there you go. We've all got some sort of thing going, and they're all having a little bit of fun there in the live stream. So we'll get that actually up and running again for next time. That was actually a really good fun thing to do. So we'll with thanks to Penrite Oil and to Ryco Filters. Penrite, a better class of oil, and Ryco Filters, the professional's choice since 1936. We thank you for tuning in for round 1 of the ASR Enduro Cup 2021. In a week's time, you'll see the GT3 World Championship on this network as well. We'll be coming to you on Saturday night next weekend from Paul Ricard for the 90 minutes of Paul Ricard. And then a couple of weeks after that, the Saturday and Sunday at the beginning of October. We checked the dates on this one. It'll be the 2nd and 3rd of October. It will be the Gold Coast 400 across those 2 days. Until next time, please drive safely, everybody. We'll see you on the flip side. Bye for now. The 2021 ASR Supercars Enduro Cup is proudly brought to you by Penrite Oil, Australian made and owned since 1926. Penrite, a better class of oil. Ryco Filters, the professional's choice for high-performance automotive filters since 1936. ASR would also like to acknowledge the ongoing support of Cam Rutledge Electrical, Matt Harvey Repair and Tune, Endurance Chat Media, Beyond Electrical, and Smith & Sons Renovations and Extensions. Thank you for being a part of our series through 2020 and 2021.